Good evening and welcome to CanHammer, your stop for 40K from the Great White North. Today's show is episode 98. It's all about the LVO 2017. And we're also going to pimp a chaos list from Homer. As usual, I'm your host, Chris, at CanHammer Chris on Twitter. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr.
Logan. That's CanHammer Logan on Twitter.
We have a special guest joining us from London, Mr.
Dan Platt.
And we have another guest, not so special,
Ooh.
joining us from the Big Smog, Mr.
Jeff Brown.
Okay, so our website is canhammer.ca. You can visit that for more information. This is our bi-weekly, which we've been off for about 3 weeks now, podcast, where we just talk about Warhammer stuff and what kind of hobby we've been going on to promote the Canadian Warhammer cause. That's why when we went to LVO, we tried to promote that Canadian cause. It went okay. If you want to support us, you can check out patreon.com/canhammer, and your support covers our hosting and things like that. So, Dan's been on before. Everybody should know him. He's like the most famous Canadian ever, I think.
Yeah, of all the Canadians ever, yeah.
Yeah, he's just the most famous. Maybe second to Scotty, because he's pretty famous.
Yeah,
and but Jeff, it's his first time on the podcast, so what we normally do is tell us a little bit about yourself, just so that people can get a handle on how long you've been in the hobby, what armies you play, what you're like. I know you used to do a podcast. You can talk about that as well from before. You don't want to?
Nah, that's old. Well, thanks for having me on the show. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller. I've been in the hobby since I was like 13 years old, so about 20 odd years now. But I played fantasy way back in the day, like 4th, 5th edition. Dropped out of it for a while, and then got into competitive 40K 6 years ago.
Wow.
5th edition, when Blood Angels and Grey Knights were still a thing.
Were a real thing. Those were
a real
things.
thing.
Yeah.
My first competitive game, I decided to play Descent of Angels against an IG Leaf Blower list. This is just a guy I met, on DACA, and he's tabled me in 3 turns, so that was my first game, and then I realized, well, I gotta get better at this game. I gotta get good.
Get good.
So I started
suck.
playing competitively. Sucks to suck.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's that. I mean, I played Knights all this last year, which we'll talk about later. I got Space Marines, Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Space Wolves, Necrons, AdMech, War Combo, some Tau, probably you name a model, I have it.
Yeah, I think we're all getting that way. So are you a gamer first, modeler first, fluff bunny first? What's your priority?
I love the fluff. Don't get me wrong. I mean, behind me, that's all. It's a whole bookshelf of Games Workshop books. But for me, like, the fluff and the game are 2 separate things. Yep. When I build an army, I'm not going, oh, look, this is Sergeant so-and-so with his squad of Marines that have been together for 20 years. Nah, I don't. They're meeples to me. They're little men that I push around a table, and they have special rules. So the fluff and the game don't actually coexist for me, but I love them both separately.
Okay. Now, painting, is that like...
Well, yeah, I mean, I got a whole painting state. Painting's just, I do it because I like to be good at tournaments. I like to win best all around. So I've gotten good at painting, and I've started enjoying it because I've done so much of it. Mm-hmm. And, you got to make sure you hit that painting rubric every tournament. Dan knows what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, that's a good point to make, right? Like ultimately, if I quit gaming, I would not continue painting. Yeah. But I don't hate painting. Like, so that's I really like that you put it that way. Like, I wouldn't just paint for fun. I don't think I'd be a painter, like a Golden Demon guy. But for sure, to check the boxes and have a pretty looking army, it's worthwhile to do. So.
Yeah, I mean, I spend probably 4 nights a week, 3 hours a night, 2 hours a night painting. Usually after my kid goes to bed and my wife does some work, so I'll sit there. So I spend obviously more time painting than I do actually gaming.
Yeah.
But like you, yeah, if I stopped playing, I wouldn't paint for fun. Maybe one model a year, but that'd be about it.
Yeah. Well, that's the best part about this hobby, right? Like I would game every day and wouldn't paint at all. Well, if I could, but you can't game every day, right? You have to be home, and it gives us something to do at home. So, good, cool beans. You don't want to talk about your podcast? Okay, I was hoping to get.
No. It was an old pod. It's still going. I'm just not on anymore. It was a podcast called Geek Fallout, and they do like geek news and movie reviews and comic book reviews and crap like that. I haven't. I still listen to it occasionally, but it was way. You guys know it's a lot of work, and it was just. I stopped enjoying geek stuff because it became like work.
Yeah, you had to read this book for this podcast, and you had to. Yeah, sometimes it gets that way. You have to buy the new Fall Acadia and pound through the fluff just so you have a grasp of it.
Yeah, and it was getting my way of my Warhammer time. So
There you go.
Cool.
You made the right choice.
Yeah.
So we'll get into our first segment then. This is the usual one. It's any interesting hobby progress we've been up. This gives us our cred. People know what we're working on and what they can expect us to see in the future. So I'll start with you, Jeff. What have you been painting recently?
Well, I got some Screamers. Those been painting. I got some Demonettes of Zinch. Those are in assembly.
Those look like horrors. Were they horrors or Screamers?
No, these are Demonettes. These are
before
these
that.
are Screamers here.
Okay.
And these are horrors.
Yeah. You said Screamers for the horrors. I was just confused.
Sorry. I got Screamers, horrors, Demonettes. So I'm getting ready for some demon summoning, obviously. I just put together last night Celestine and her friends because they are badass.
Yep.
Yeah, they're gorgeous models. Like, how are they put together?
Dude, all those 3 models, or the 5 models in that Imperium Triumvirate or whatever it is, they're all really cool. But Belisarius Call, he is 50 pieces alone.
Wow.
And at one point I was putting a thumb onto a hand. So they go together really well, except some of them are very, very, very small. And because they're precise fit, every model goes together the same way, and they only go together one way.
Mm-hmm.
If you nick a little bit off when you cut it off the sprue, or you shave it down a little bit too much and it doesn't sit flush, you can't. There's no way of fixing it other than by stuffing models in. So you gotta be really careful with them, but they look awesome.
Sick. So what are you going to use those for? Just like a hobby project? Are you going to incorporate them into anything? Or
Call's going into my war convo because he's a beast.
Mm-hmm.
And after an experience, when we talk about recent games, I'll talk about Celestine, and she might be going in a couple other lists that I'm playing around with.
Sick. Cool. So Dan, any cool hobby stuff in your world?
Yep.
Professional painter over here.
Yep, that's actually one of the things I've been doing lately. I did a lot of LVO prep, speed paint stuff, because they came out with the rule maybe a week ahead of time saying everything has to be 3 colors based, everything. So I just went this bunch of speed painting for that, touching up a commission knight. You guys can see that. I'm a knight. He's cool. They're touching up him right now, doing a bunch of other stuff.
They're good models, I hear.
Yeah, apparently. I don't know. But the big thing I'm working on, the most exciting thing, I just got the new Kairos, and
Sick.
he is
Nice.
just about done. I had to I magnetized everything. He's awesome, absolutely huge compared to the old one, which makes the gamer inside me a little sad. But it's kind of an important switch because he's totally badass. So.
Yeah, like a toughness 5 model that's huge is kind of scary.
Yeah. He's bigger than a D-Thirster. He's bigger than Demon Princes. He's a big dude for sure.
So a lot of people have been messaging me. How big is he relative to Magnus? Is he the same size? Slightly smaller?
He's slightly smaller than Magnus, but only by maybe a centimeter or 2.
Okay.
He's a big deal. I'll take a side-by-side picture and send it to you once he's complete.
Sick. I'll tweet that out. People can't believe how big Kairos is now for because how fragile he is, right? He's just gonna eat dirt, and I think in a lot of games
he's gonna
now.
just get smashed. It's I want to hide, but he can't. There's no hiding anymore.
No, 100mm base too against a lot of things like Tau and Wraith Knights. You can't null deploy anymore by putting them in a corner because they can reach the 100 mils now.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's tricky.
not
but
good. Not good.
I think it's gonna have to be a thing. I think there's gonna be a lot of people that just will give you the dirty look if you're I'm gonna use the old Kairos because he's cooler. No, he's not cooler, obviously. So.
Sick. Logan, you been doing anything, or you just been dead?
I
heard you almost died there.
I've been really sick since I got back from Vegas. I had a sinus infection that had me on my ass for about 4 days, which was rough. But since then, been working on some models for a new list I'm working on. So whipped up a conversion for a chaplain to use. So he's got just basically weapon swaps and whatnot. Put a big horn on his head. Nothing too crazy. Finished off a conversion for another Iron Priest. So sort of in line with the other guys I've been doing. It's a Skull Crusher with some bit swaps for Marauders and a couple other models. And last but not least, just put together a couple quad mortar kits that I've got, along with some Marines, and been doing some basing. So got some painting to do in the near future.
He's so cheesy.
It is. It's true. It's true.
Cool, cool. So I guess that gets on to me. I did the same as Dan. I speed painted for LVO, got my demons done. If you saw them, I wasn't embarrassed to put the army on the table, but I wasn't happy. You know what I mean? Like it was okay. So there's nothing really there to report. But I've been working on my Age of Sigmar because, of course, I'm like this 40K thing, man, is a lot of work after LVO. So I was looking for how many Slayers I could find in my office, and I think I got up to like 70, 74. So because I'm trying to do basically it counts as using old Slayer models mixed in with new characters for the Fire Slayer list. So I had 30 painted, and I put them on 32 millimeter round bases. I'm still working on touching up their feet. That's the thing, when you break them off their base, the paint chips all over their feet and stuff,
Yep.
and you got to like touch it all up and rebase them. And then I got 30 of them on round bases. They just need a couple more coats of touch up and then some snow. And then I have about the rest of them, whatever that is, 40 something. They're just on. I got them all cleaned up, put them on round 32s, flocked and spray primed them. So that army's coming along really nicely. I got a pretty sick all tunneling list. Now the reason I'm doing Fire Slayers, a lot of people be like, well, they're garbage, and this show's gonna be mostly 40K, so we'll move on pretty quickly. But they're pretty garbage. But in the new general handbook, everything that list dropped like 20% in points. So I was like, I don't know what it is. Like sometimes when points drops happen, you just get your hobby mojo, and you're like, I just want to paint all these naked dwarves. So that's what I've been up to.
Shit, Chris says.
Yeah, well,
Not touching that one.
as you'll see in the news, there's also new Stormcast books. So part of me wants to just like shelve these guys and go back to the Stormcast, but we'll see how that goes.
Nice.
Cool. So we're going on to recent games. So I guess we won't talk about the LVL games. We're going to talk about them later. But briefly, you played any games, Jeff, recently?
I did. I got 2 games in recently. One was competitive. One was not so competitive. Every year, the not competitive one, me and 2 of my buddies, we get together for like a Christmas bash. It's usually my buddy's wife's Christmas display. She's got a bunch of houses and shit, so she'll let us play a game over top of that. And he usually writes like stupid rules, and it's unfair in the most extreme way. But we're just there to drink and have fun. So this year was like a Zone Mortalis style.
Yeah.
1,000 points. Took Call and some Skadari and some Admech, and it was good. I mean, it's a small game. We played the Zone Mortalis when you have like the blips, so you can't see what the other model is until you actually like, come in line of sight of it, which was really fun. And yeah, that was good. I also played an ETC game, practice game, with a buddy of mine using Celestine, the 3-knight formation, Libby Conclave, and some scouts. And yeah, in about 5, I think I had tabled a war convo in about 5 turns, and I had only lost 3 bikes, 5 scouts, and that was it.
Was that using?
So what did
I
you
ran
add?
2 knights.
Was that the Triumvirate you were running, or
No, the 3 knights, the
Tripart Lance?
Tripartite? That's the one. Yep,
Yeah.
Tripartite.
So buffing that with Libby Conclave, summoning demons with Libby Conclave, and having Celestine tank the Libby Conclave, and that was like it was pretty crazy. Like even Grav, just hitting that unit, she'll take it. Her 4 up, she dies, she comes back. Her friends take it, they die, they come back. It makes no difference.
Yeah, so you just use her to keep your Librarian and Conclave alive because they're on their own, right? Are they in a unit or?
No, it was just two Libbies on bikes and Tiggy.
Okay, so that's a fragile
I-
unit, but she makes it good. That's kind of interesting.
I stuck him in a unit of 3 bikes just because I had the extra points. But that was with Tiggy as the Warlord. I think I might drop the bikes and run 2 units of scouts so Celestine could be the Warlord just to like almost guarantee that preserving the Warlord kill point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she was a boss. Like she doesn't hit hard. She got into combat and they were stuck in combat for like 2 turns, and she kind of strength 5, yeah, AP 3, yeah, but with anything with an invul save or feel no pain, she's not really hitting much. And the Libby Conclave doesn't hit that hard.
No.
But she guarantees hit and run without losing any sort of chapter tactics, which is really nice. And she just comes back. Now the question we had though is, does she come back as part of the unit if she dies in combat?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
I don't think so.
For the
I'm pretty
question.
sure.
Do you place the model in the same location?
You place a
Where's the
counter.
Counter.
Yeah.
Deep questions. Let's put it on the
Okay.
competitive 40K chat.
Yeah, we'll have to look that up. Maybe we'll come back at the end of the show with that one if we have an answer. If not, it'll have to be next show. Cool. So we'll go to you, Dan. Any recent games? Or are you just being burned out from LVO? Or
Since the LVO, I don't think I've actually played any games, but before that, I've been practicing a lot of ETC stuff for the upcoming CanHammer team tournament and the actual ETC, obviously. And I played in the tournament like a few weeks before the LVO. A lot of testing going into what list to bring, Cabal, Star, usually versus Magnus, which one. I settled on Magnus, and I was pretty happy with how that went. So, other than that, though, nothing too crazy. Lots of ETC practice. That's the main thing.
cool. So going to me. I haven't played since the LVO, and everybody knows all my other games because they're usually online on YouTube. So Logan, you have anything that you played?
No, I've had to cancel all my games because I've been sick. But hopefully some coming up in the next week or so.
Cool. So you guys been doing any non-Warhammer stuff that's of value to our listeners? Any good information? Anything cool that you've been reading? No?
No.
Yeah, we're basically all...
I binge watched the show on Netflix. That was about it.
Yeah. Which one was that? Which one?
The wife and I did that the Santa Clarita Diet one.
Oh, it's like a murder something,
It's funny.
right?
It was man. It was about this chick who becomes a zombie, but she still lives a regular life. It was legitimately funny. I enjoyed it. It was a good wife show.
Oh, I get it.
Good answer.
So we'll go on to news and new releases. First one is Age of Sigmar. They're re-releasing Stormcast Battletome. I know we're like a few days late on this one. It comes out this Saturday. I should have my copy a little bit after that to get more information on that. I'm super psyched for this. I know a lot of people online have been hating on it. Why do Stormcast need new releases? It's kind of BS. Like, they just got re-released. And my take on it has always been they're missing allegiance abilities, they're missing items, all that fun stuff, and they're the flagship army. And they needed some fixing because, quite frankly, their list design is one-dimensional and is very, I want to say overpowered in some ways. But so I'm really stoked it came out. Apparently, they got rid of teleport, so you can't get within 9 inches of anybody when you come in, except for there's one formation that you can. But the entire army now teleports, but it's on a 3+. So you start turn 1, you can put every Stormcast unit, if you're pure Stormcast Allegiance, I believe, in basically the Star Realm, and they come in on giant lightning bolts that Sigmar throws at the board, and you can place them anywhere 9 inches away from your opponent, but it's on a 3+. And the kicker is that if there's no modifier, well, maybe some of the items do. I didn't, my book. I don't have my book yet. I'm just going by pictures online. So if you just keep rolling 1s and 2s, theoretically 5 turns later, you might have a unit not come in, and it counts as destroyed at the end of the game. So part of me is it's really reward, it's a great reward, but it's also now a trade back. And that was maybe a problem that I had with some of the formations, is they were cheap, and you'd bring in all your guys wherever you wanted or 9 inches away, but it was your choice, and you could do kind of whatever you wanted, and then there's no downside to it. And I kind of like that they made a downside.
So what you're saying is they're an army of superhumans that can strike deep into the enemy's territory on a reserve roll of 3+. Really original.
Yeah, it's original. But so, do you guys have any are you guys upset about the new release, or are you guys just kind of happy, or what do you think, Dan?
I'm glad to see updates for rules. Sorry, you had asked Dan. I was already talking.
Yeah, you talk. It's okay, man. You're glad. I agree.
I play Stormcast too, but yeah, I think they needed to. I think, like you said, one-dimensional list design was a big problem for them. It's okay, what do I take in addition to a Retributor Bomb? That was what you came down to, right? Yeah. It's a big change in the sense that was a big crutch that everyone used for Stormcast. So we'll see if it's still as viable as it once was. I'm sure it will be.
Yeah, but I've never seen the new Velexor. So that should be said. I just heard that
that's why I heard
get within 9. So yeah. It could be, people screw up shit on the internet all the time. So
you're right.
I thought I saw new rules for the Velexor.
Yeah,
I thought I saw him leak today.
Yeah,
and he doesn't have that 3-inch rule anymore.
Yeah, which is good. And he should drop in points then. If they take that away, he can no longer be a 200-point character. To be honest,
for sure.
I mean, I got a bunch of Stormcast that are gray plastic, and they've sat there because I didn't want to run Retributor Bomb, but this actually might want me to get them out.
Yeah. Well, you can do Judicators all over the board now. You can still do that because it's a slow-moving game. You can kind of do that I think you just got to think more tactically, and you probably got to play a bit smarter now. Whereas before it was like, yep, boom, okay, you lose your big scary unit, and the game's over. But that's cool. So one thing that's really made me happy is they have new Griffhounds, 6 of them for $30. This couldn't make me happier. They were ridiculous. You had to buy a character to get them. I wanted to run a unit of them just because I thought that their hit and run style of rule could be used quite effectively. So I'm really glad to see this, and I hope they get new rules and maybe drop in points. 40 points for one dog is a bit steep, my opinion, and they're good for, they allow, I don't know if the rules have changed, but anyway, the old rules was if you came in from a reserve style mechanic within a certain range of them, you'd roll 2d6, and all of your army that's within that range can then shoot that target, so you could use them to protect from things like telebombs and things, which is pretty sweet. And then Vanguard Hunters, they're the next unit that came out. They have a short range shooting attack, and to me they didn't really fit. I don't really like the aesthetic. They're like Stormcast, but they have a lot of bear heads, and they have like wolf pelts, and they're not really how I picture Stormcast. I don't know about you guys.
I like them, but they remind me of White Lions, so
Yeah.
I like that. So that's all I went for.
Yeah,
Well,
like
how
I
about the
immediately
dump?
looked at the Lion Rangers, and they're still on the site, but I'm like, okay, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Maybe with the new rules, they'll be a little more cohesive with the rest of the army.
Yeah, I want to say I had it all up, and then my computer blew up, but they had like an 8-inch range shot, I believe, so it's kind of like too short. I like range in this game.
Yeah. The crossbows could be pretty good now if they're all teleporting in anyway. The crossbows and the adjudicators, that would actually make them viable.
And like, does teleporting? It says it counts as their move, but do they count as moving?
Yeah, is that hero phase or is that in the move phase or where exactly is that going to happen?
I believe it's in the move phase off the top of my head, but and it says that counts as their move. But does counting as their move count? Because like what the crossbow guys, they get extra shots if they don't move.
Right.
Or is it extra to hit? It's extra shots, right?
Yeah, I think it doubles their shots or something.
Yeah. And then so does that count as moving? I don't actually know. I'd have to. I read through the fact. I didn't see anything on it, but I could.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
So 40K news, Logan.
40K news. We've got a next book in the Fall of Cadia series, which is The Gathering Storm: Fracture of Biel-Tan.
Yeah, we're a little bit late on this one.
Yeah, a little late. Introduces the Ynnari. We're actually going to have a read-along that Darren's doing up on our channel in the next couple days, so keep your eyes open for that if you're interested in it and don't have a copy. We've got the Gangs of Komorog. Komora? How are you supposed to pronounce
this
that?
came out of nowhere. I say Komorov, or something like that. Like the GH is like an F sound. I don't know.
No, weird.
The Gangs of
Is
Dark
that
Eldar
weird?
City.
Is that weird? Yeah.
So it's a boxed game. Apparently the game is decent, much like the rest of the board games that have come out. I'm not sure if the models are worth it necessarily. It's a couple Reavers and a couple jet bikes, Eldar jet bikes.
If you need the Reavers, it's totally worth it.
Yeah. And Reavers, believe it or not, are pretty hot right now.
Yeah.
Well, if you're the one person that does well with them. But we'll see how they do with the new stuff in Fracture Biel-Tan. We've got the Blues and Brimstone box is finally out, and it's actually a killer deal. It's 20 models for $40. It's 10 blues and 10 bases of brims for $40 Canadian.
You know, the best part about that box actually coming out is that now you can call people on the garbage that they're using to proxy as them.
Yeah, there's no excuse anymore.
Before the box came out, you had to kind of be like, oh, yeah, you can use pink horses, whatever you want. But now, no.
Yeah.
It's legit.
Is that you calling out Zach, Chris?
No, I'm not calling Zach out. I'm calling out like half of LVO.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, there was an excuse at LVO, though, for sure. And then last but not least, we've got the Death World Forest kit. So this is a terrain kit. It's really weird. I think Chris is just finding a picture of it there. What sort of rubs me the wrong way with it is, well, it's two things. One, it's super expensive for what it is. It's not very good looking either. In my opinion.
$160, yeah, for the set of all of it.
And
it's a lot of terrain, though, to be honest.
It's a lot of terrain, but it's a lot of terrain that provides no line of sight blocking at all. It's like buying a bunch of Citadel forests that don't come with a base and have really spindly trees that look super finicky to put together and stand up. So I'm not sure where they're going with this one. And all of the terrain has special rules that were in the White Dwarf, but none of them are particularly great. So
now, is this foreshadowing? Breaking this, there's no points cost in the White Dwarf. Normally in 40K, in this black, they just have a circle with the point value. There is no point value on any of this terrain. So that
Well,
makes me. So
It's
I'm
not
curious
foreshadowing. Cut it out.
if you can.
But
I'm
there's
curious
also no
if they're going
points
to remove
cost
point
for
value.
Citadel Wolves. Are there?
No, there
You
aren't.
can't. You
There's
exactly.
no
So
rules
I don't-
for them either, though.
Yes, there are.
Is there?
Look in your
There's
big
like a,
book.
There are.
There's-
There are.
yeah, but it's not the same.
So
So
there's literally there's a data sheet for Citadel Woods for
Yeah,
40K.
but there's no points cost.
Oh, wait. Okay.
There is. There is.
I'm just wondering
Same
if
thing.
like so
For the exact
I
same
am
thing as
hoping-
Citadel Wolves.
What are you hoping, Chris?
I'm hoping 40K loses point values in all their publications, just like Age of Sigmar, and I'm hoping
Oh.
that they go to a yearly release of point values, so that the
That's
rules
smart.
are separate from the point. I think that's brilliant. It's the best thing about Sigmar right now in General's Handbook 2.0, which I missed in the news. Sorry, the General Handbook 2.0 has been announced, and new point values have been leaked. They are on War Scroll Builder. You can test them out. They've dropped some stuff. They've raised some stuff. It's awesome. Like,
Yeah.
this is what 40K needs to be competitive. Is
Yep.
like I saw no points, and you maybe I'm wrong, and I live in a bubble, but I got really excited. I was like, if they just remove points from the game, Eldar jet bikes could cost like 120 points right now.
Remove points to the game and the
And-
data sheet and add a general's
Oh,
handbook.
and then
Yeah,
add
yeah,
like,
exactly.
add a compendium
Please,
that gets
like-
updated every year. Yeah, sorry.
I completely agree with all the things you're saying. Just don't make us wait a year like you did
Yeah,
for Fantasy.
exactly.
Please.
The
Yeah, well,
one
you could
thing
use
you're
the
missing, though, Chris, the one thing you're missing is this is some of the first non-Imperium terrain. This is Xenos terrain, technically. I mean, you had the
Well,
Orc barricades, but this is now
Well,
this is
they
the
had
first
the
time they've
whole
done
Tau thing,
Eldar
too.
terrain.
Yeah, there's the Tau
Well,
stuff.
those are actually models, right? Those
Yeah.
this whole shield line thing.
That's
Same
true.
thing.
That's true.
But the only
the
reason
Eldar
I-
runes look awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Eldar
they
runes
would be
cool.
wicked. The rest of
the-
it's too kind of alien. It's kind
Yeah,
of
it
they
looks
tried to
really
be so
weird.
different and like Death World, and I'm like, what's wrong with just a jungle, man? What's wrong with just
Yeah.
a jungle?
We need
It reminds me-
those old plastic tree kits that came with the 3rd edition box. You remember those?
I have a
Yeah.
whole bunch.
It reminds
I
me
might
of
have found some.
Galroch from
Yeah.
Fantasy, the old
Yeah.
dragon.
It's a really
Like, you can
similar
make
look.
a sweet conversion.
That's the first thing I thought of when I saw it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
6. So we're gonna move on to event spotlights. We have a lot of them coming up, so we're gonna go really quick because we have a lot to cover tonight. First one, and I'm only gonna do February. This is a sign that the Ontario tournament scene is exploding because I'm getting emails. Like I can't even keep up with how many events we have in Ontario and Quebec for this. It's crazy. I'm blown away. Anyway, first one is Sequence Comics is doing an Adepticon primer for the Adepticon Championships. It's February 25th. Sequence Comics is in Brockville, Ontario. You can check out their website, Facebook page for more information. The next one is we have a February 25th. It's Age of Sixmar. So that's you have to go on Facebook and search for Age of #6 IXMAR. It's hosted by Dom. It's at 1193 Bloor Street in Toronto. Not sure what store that is. I want to say Meeple Mart, but I could be wrong. Is that Bloor Street?
I don't think they're on Blur. They're on Spadina somewhere, aren't they?
No, Meeple Mart's on Spadina. Is that the Dueling Grounds?
Oh, it could be
Might
Dueling
be.
Grounds. Yeah.
I looked at the address and my Google Maps didn't sync up, and it was right before the show here. So sorry about that, Dom. But anyway, you can go on Facebook, Age of #6 IXMAR, and it should show up if you're in the Greater Toronto area and you want to play an Age of Sigmar on February 25th. We also have what's next, Logan, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, the Barrie Bash, February 25th and 26th in Barrie, Ontario. Tickets are continuing to sell, which is great. I think they're up to about 40 people now, so creeping up there towards a major. A couple days left to go. $60, 5 rounds over 2 days at... I cannot remember the name of the store for the life of me, but it's a pretty...
Sir
Games a Lot. That's the
Yeah.
one. So pretty nice venue. Looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. So lots of
Awesome
folks over there.
tournament. Been there 3 years in a row now. It's well run. It's well funded. The organizer, Ridvan Skari, you probably all know who he is. Great guy, he knows what he's talking about. And the store owner is awesome.
Yeah, he's fun.
he always throws stuff in. He's always doing great door prizes. He's a really cool guy. Great event.
Awesome. Next one is Kingston Club Challenge, February 18th and 19th, and that would be in Kingston, Ontario, at the Gamers Nexus. It's $40, 2,000 points, 6 rounds, which is pretty sweet. And then the last announcement for this month, anyway, is CCB Reg opens March 1st. Capital C Bloodbath is a convention that Logan and I run, as well as with Andrew and Jason. We've paired up with Blackfire Productions, who does Lord of the Rings and Marvel videos on YouTube. You can check them out. It's FYRE, like the Fantasy Fire or whatever. We've also paired up with Moose Machine, which is a War Machine podcast / club, and they're doing the War Machine aspect of it. We're doing a convention this year. We have a bunch of new sponsors that are interested in jumping on, so we're going to be giving out loot bags to the attendees, which will vary depending on what our sponsors pull in, but we're in talks with that right now. So we are making the leap from a standard tournament to a full-on gaming convention this year. We're going to have vendor booths there. We're going to have our gamer garage sale, painting competition, all that standard stuff, but it's going to be more of a convention and more open with some demo games and some other organizations. So March 1st is the date to check it out. That's when Reg goes live. We'll have lots of space. We should be able to accommodate everybody. There's some rumors that some major U.S. players might be coming to play in the 40K, so it won't be as much of a cakewalk this year for you, Dan. But
Damn it.
but we'll make sure we'll let people know when they register so that they know. So that's it for upcoming events. So we're gonna take a quick musical break, and then we'll be right back to talk about the Las Vegas Open 2017.
We're back.
Welcome back.
Yep. So we are back to talk about LVO.
Yes, we are.
I was just making sure that my recorder it like froze for a second. So I was like, oh, okay. That's kind of
the best
important.
look on your face.
Well, I need to see
Are
the
we?
bits count. The bits didn't count. So cool. So we are back to talk about the LVO 2017. So we went down there as part of a giant Canadian contingent that flew down this year. We had lots of people from Montreal, 4 or 5, Marc-Andre and Dieter, to name a few. We had our whole crew, everybody here, plus Diogo, Joe, who else went? Sean, Caleb, he doesn't count. Wes Pauly from Edmonton, or Calgary. Is he Calgary?
Edmonton, I think. There's a couple other guys from Edmonton as well.
They were down there.
His club was out there.
Conrad, Val.
Yeah, like there's too many to name. There's just a ton of people went down this year to just kind of light up the LVO with our Canadian charm, I guess you could say.
Something.
So, Las Vegas Open, it's the finals for the ITC ranking. For those of you maybe from Europe that aren't really into that, we like the rankings because we need our egos patted a little bit, so we like to do well in those. And this is basically the end of it. So it doesn't end January 1st like a lot of yearly type events. It ends with the LVO, which is sometime in February. So a lot of people are going there to be super competitive, finish off their rankings, and try to bump themselves up, maybe get best faction and things like that. So it's at Bally's Casino in Las Vegas. So obviously we all had to fly there. So what would you guys think when you got down there? You have any travel stories or?
Air conditioning on my flight was broken for the 5 hours that I was going, so that was not fun.
It's unfortunate.
Did you have to sit by the piss hole in the back?
I was actually in the second to last row too. Wasn't as bad as Diogo's fight though. I was in the very back row.
Yeah, he was in the back row, and I walked back to go see him. We were on the same flight. I walked back there and I went, "What's that? Oh, never mind. You're right by the bathroom." It was about 3 hours into it. It was bad, and I wasn't going to go visit him anymore.
See, I got really lucky on my flight because I'm like a bigger dude. But like I got seated next. There was a Taekwondo tournament, so I got seated next to like really skinny fit people that took up very little space because they're like fighters. So I had a lot of leg room. It was pretty good.
Nice.
So it's at Bally's Casino. We went in there. The hall is pretty cool. It's a big standard convention hall.
2 of them.
They had to
actually
break out into 2 parts. They had a vendor section as well as all the other games. It was awesome to see the Drop Zone and Drop Fleet guys were there plugging their wares. That game is an up and coming game that really interests me. So it's really good to see them out in the U.S. You don't see them outside of England too much from what I like if you look at their event dates. So it's very good that they made the LVO. Anything that intrigued you guys about that, or?
I actually had a chance to chat with one of the guys that was working on Drop Fleet, the rules designer for it. Really interesting dude. Would love to have him on the podcast at some point in the near future, just to do a quick interview.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean the big highlights for me in terms of people there and just the overall setup was running into him, but also the mini wargaming guys were down there. Or at least Dave was, and another one of the guys whose name escapes me right now. But it's really cool to see the competitive side of things starting to get a bigger focus from groups like them and like Games Workshop themselves, who have previously been sort of averse to it, or at least not really acknowledged it so much.
Yeah, Warhammer TV guys were there streaming all weekend, which is awesome. They had a big Age of Sigmar tournament, which is really good to see. I didn't get to spend a lot of time with them, but I did recognize a lot of from my ETC fantasy days, traveling around the U.S., playing like that kind of style 8th edition. I recognized a lot of the old 8th edition crew now playing Age of Sigmar, which was really good to see. It means that they didn't walk away from the hobby. Maybe some did, but not all of them. Cool. So this is a convention, so we all got badge levels. So I think we all got regular badge levels, but Dan, you got the special badge, right, Dan?
High roller.
Yeah, I got the high roller pack.
You did
high
too,
roller.
though, Chris. You just forgot about
Oh,
it.
did Chris?
I was gonna let Jeff tell the story. So
I'll tell that story.
right.
It was my badge temporarily.
yeah.
That's true. It was.
So I went to check in, and I was like, "Oh, Chris Haynes, whatever." And they're like, "Oh, you're not on the list." And I was like, "Oh, I'm pretty sure I paid." So I whip out the email, show my receipt, and they were like, "Okay, whatever." They give me like a yellow wristband, and I leave. And then Jeff was wearing my badge.
Well, it was Friday night. I think it was Friday night, right?
Yeah.
Or Friday or Saturday night. One of the nights. We were just walking by. I'm checking it out. I'm looking at there's still a bunch of high roller badges there. I'm looking at them like, Christopher Haynes. Well, fuck, this is mine now. So I put it on. You walked out of the elevator. You looked right at it and looked away. I had to call your attention back to him and go, "Hey, Chris, you like my badge?" And then you just took it off me.
I was so excited, man. I was like, people were like, we couldn't believe how happy you got. And I was like, because I'm that kind of guy. Like, I was like, I like the event shirt. I like the event cup. And I felt like, I was like, oh, I must have not bought it, right? And I felt kind of disappointed. So it was really good to get it. And so we got some sick stuff in it. We got Lost Patrol. We got a Drop Fleet starter fleet. What fleet did you get?
I got Scourge. What did you get?
Scourge.
Okay, that's cool.
But it's funny because I kickstarted Drop Fleet, so I actually have all the fleets already. So now I just have a really big Scourge fleet.
So was my buddy. My buddy got 2 of the Kickstarters on everything. So we're definitely playing some Drop Fleet pretty soon.
Nice. Yeah, I'm super stoked. It's that
looks awesome.
Well designed. Yeah, and the rule book. I think I was showing Jeff this. The rule book's like all in black, and it looks like classic like Battlefleet Gothic, but like way better produced.
Yeah,
so
it's sleek. I got the Drop Zone one in Adepticon last year. The product quality is fantastic.
Yeah, for how small and like how new they are.
Yeah.
Like they hit the scene running, and they've hit it hard and very exciting. But we'll have to talk about that later because I actually own like a 2 Drop Zone. I went ham on that company. I bought everything. I was like, let's get some games in.
Right on.
Cool. So that was the badges. We also got some Wrath of King stuff, rule books, and things like that. Just kind of neat.
Dead Zone stuff. Some a discount on Secret Weapon. A bunch of stuff like easily $250 value. And we got a shirt and a pint glass and awesome like engraved MDF engraved name tag. It was really cool. It was totally worth
the
it.
value.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like next year, if you're going to LVO, 100% buy the high roller package.
Yeah, I'll do it again for sure.
So what I'm hearing is you got Scouts, Gene Stealers, a glass, and then a bunch of crap.
Well, you got to wear a shirt too, man. The shirt's kind of nice.
Okay, sorry, a shirt.
That was my thing. I was like, okay, the entry is going to be $40. I'm going to buy the shirt for $30. So for another $30, I got a whole bunch of free stuff. I was like, that's good enough for me.
Like I would have bought the cup and the shirt anyway. So
yeah.
Fair enough.
Cool. So we're gonna go back on what armies do you guys bring, Jeff? So you were going to win what? Try and win.
I was leading up to it. I've been chasing. I kind of made a goal at the beginning of the 2016 season. I wanted to get best of a faction, and I said, fuck it, I'll just do knights. So almost every tournament except for the 2016 Barry Bash, I played knights in last year. So I was pretty heavily knights. Even hit number 3rd ITC ranked at one point. Going into it, I was like 6th, but I knew a couple of the people ahead of me weren't playing knights. So I took 5 knights, 3 wardens, which are the guys with the Gatling cannon, 1 gallant because that's the close combat one, the cheap one that you need to take 5 knights, and a Forge World Lancer. The only reason I took the Lancer was for dealing with close combat Wraith Knights because otherwise those things kick your ass because you can't deal with them. And never.
So what does he do quickly? Just before we get started, what does the Lancer do?
So he's a regular knight stat, so 13, 12, 12. 4 attacks rather than your normal 3 attacks, which is nice. He's got a giant lance and a shield. So the shield, he can't put his ion save in his rear, but he gets a 5-up normally in close combat, which helps a lot. And his lance is a D weapon. It is also an 18-inch 6-shot plasma gun, but it has concussive. So the nice thing is you can fire into a Wraith Knight or something, concuss it, being an initiative 1, you charge in. And he's also got a special rule that if he charges, he's +1 initiative. But at any point, if he's in combat with a gargantuan monstrous creature or a super heavy, they are -1 to hit you. Not -1 weapon skill, just -1 to hit. So Wraith Knights are hitting me on 5s. I'm saving on 4s because I take the formation where he's the warlord, so he gets +1 to his invul. I'm hitting him on 3s because he's also weapon skill 6 now. So he'll initiative 5, weapon skill 6, 5 attacks on the charge, D. He can wreck face.
Yeah,
it's awesome. Yeah, I didn't even know what he did, so I'm like, awesome. Now I know.
He did to Logan, and Logan loved him.
Yeah, it was great.
Dan, what did you bring? Or sorry, you were going. So you had played multiple factions throughout the year. Was there any particular
That's
goal
true.
that you wanted to win?
Not specifically. I was getting excited. I kind of planned to try and get at least 3 scores in demons before I went down, just so that if there was a chance I could get up there. But other than that, I played. I think I played 5 different factions in the ITC this year, depending on like tournament comp and last minute changes at Capital City Bloodbath, just because I didn't want to play Eldar. There was a lot of kind of variation on factions I played throughout the year, but this year I decided to go with primary demons. And I took Magnus because he's awesome. He's really cool. It took me a long time to settle on a list, like months, just trying to decide on what list to bring. And don't try this at home, but I only played the actual list I brought one time before I actually went to the LVO. So that was a little nerve-wracking. That was scary. I was going to try and line up a test game like the night before the LVO just to see if my idea was going to work. I went through a lot of mental exercises and everything. To make the list work, but that's what I ended up settling with. So Magnus, Screamer Star, Fate Weaver, some Brims, the Mask. That's about it.
Cool. Logan, would you bring the standard cheese?
Yep, I took my 5 Riptide
Wink, wink.
Storm Surge, 2 units of Sisters, and 2 Crisis Suits, and a commander with some marker drones.
Awesome.
What about you?
So I too was like Dan. I couldn't settle on a list for the life of me. I was 4th faction Eldar, and I was like 10th or 11th for demons, so it was between those two, and I couldn't decide, and then I'd only played 1 game with Magnus. So what I did is I packed up all the demons I own. I checked 2 suitcases, and I was like, yeah, I'll write the list in the hotel room, and then I ended up settling on the 3 demon princes, Rotari Warsect, so 3 princes, all with spell familiars, level 3 Zinch. I gave them the 3+ armor save, power armor, because now people can't say, oh, these Chaos Spaceman armies don't have power armor. Well, I had 3 models of power armor, bro. So deal with that. I had 13 Brims, 11 Pinks, and I had a Herald on foot. And I decided to put him on foot instead of giving him a disc so I get an extra magic level. So he was level 3 with Paradox, so he could summon. I had 1 test game with the list. It was against Logan. It was broadcast on our YouTube channel. A lot of people had seen it prior to playing me. And I took 2 pinks in that one, so I modified it slightly, but I went with that just because I thought it'd be different and kind of cool to do. But as Dan said, don't try it at home. Play more than 1 practice game.
Yep.
Because I had played
Pro
1
tip
game
right
with
there.
Magnus. Like how many games did you play with Magnus prior to LVO?
I played a few games with Magnus. I probably played like at least 6 games with Magnus before settling on him, but
I'd only played 1 game, and I was like, man, this is not a good idea. But we'll get into that. So we'll start with round 1. We're going to go really quick, guys. The best we can. If a game mattered, we'll talk about it in detail. But if it didn't, we're going to kind of move on. Now, the Best Coast, I'm going to precursor this, the Best Coast Pairings app. I was relying on it for people's names and army lists. So because I didn't keep anything, I was like, oh, it's all in the app. And they've taken all that information. They deleted all the previous events for the previous year. So I lost almost all my information. So sorry about that if I don't get your name right or if I forget your name or your list a little bit. It's just the way it is. So let's start with that. Best Coast Pairings app. What do you guys think of that? So it's 2 parts now. The TO has their own app, and then they have a player app. And so the player app would just give you all your matches and the army list for your opponent as soon as you were matched. What do you guys think of that?
I liked it. They had some stability issues, which is to be expected. It's the first time they've done an event that size by, I think, a factor of like 4 or 5. So it, all things considered, it went really smoothly given that situation. There are a couple tweaks they can do to it, and I know the guys that were at least working on the Android app, or I should say the guy that's working on the Android app, was walking around asking for some feedback on stuff. So it sounds like they're really invested in making it and improving it. So I'm very happy with it. I can't wait till the TO app's out for Android so that I can start using it to run my events because it saves a lot of headaches when it works.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with it. It was nice, too, being able to be like, oh, this is his list, and you can read it while he comes up to the table. Yep. Now, there were problems. Some people intentionally left their lists out of the app, which makes you question their legitimacy a little bit, especially because some of them did it on purpose.
Yep.
And were pretty open about doing it on purpose. They just said, and even the TOs would tell them to put it in, they just wouldn't do it, right? So, or they'd forget, or there'd be a problem, or whatever, but it was kind of weird. There's a little bit of that stuff that needs to be worked out. But so we'll start with you, Dan. Who'd you play round 1?
Round 1, I played a guy named Gabriel. He was from Sweden. first major ITC event, first time in the States, first time in Vegas. Played War Convocation, and sadly he got paired against me first round. Unfortunately, he wasn't quite prepared for what Magnus was going to do. So I did end up winning 10 to 1, round 1.
Sick.
You
Logan,
let him
yours?
get a point?
I played against...
sorry, Dan, he got a point, Dan? How do you get the point?
He got line breaker, I think. But I think I just couldn't kill any of his stuff anymore. I didn't have the heart to do it.
Oh, okay.
So my game was...
Good guy, Dan.
My game was similar. So I played against... I can't remember the guy's name, unfortunately, but it's a Taudar list with an AM detachment with 3 wyverns. So it was actually a pretty cool list. But I was able to abuse a lot of LOS stuff so that he could only ever hit one of my Riptides at a time. So I just circled him around to soak the wounds and pick off a bunch of stuff with SMS. But it got down to the point where he had just an armored container left. And I think 1 guardsman. I was like, I reach over for the handshake. Like, the game is over. He can't get to any objectives. He's like, no, you need to kill these if you want to win.
That's the way to do it, man.
So I had to table him. I shot D missiles into a crate.
It's worth it.
It was
Like
fun.
that shit up.
It was fun. So that was
Jeffy?
an 11-0 for me.
11-0, Jeffy?
I played against, I don't remember any of my opponents' names, but Riptide Wing for 3 tides, Void Shield Generator. It was Taudar. Then you had an Eldar with your standard bikes, spiders, Autark, and the Scaff Hatch, but not the Melta Scaff Hatch. So have fun against Knights with that one.
Yep.
I won the game. I play Yoshi's one of my local players, so I've played against enough Riptide Wings and Eldar to know how to play against them.
Yeah.
Staying out of range, so they're not gonna, or at least they're not gonna effectively hailfire, and I just whittle him down. And he left his. It was the Emperor's Will one, so he deployed on one side and then put his objective on the other side. So thought that was weird. Just moved a couple of knights up in his objective and didn't table him, but I think I won it like 9-4, which is enough. A win's a win.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Yep.
So for those of you not familiar with ITC, we did missions 1 through 6. You can look on their website for what those are. Basically, a win is worth 1,000 bonus points. So we're playing. So when Dan says he got a 10 out of 11, that's just like the tiebreaker. He actually got 1,010 points, and Logan got 1,011. And so as long as you got more points than your opponent, you got 1,000-point bonus, and the other guy got 0 because it's win-loss draw. So it's kind of weird. So my round 1, I pulled up to the table, and I was like, oh, 46 warp spotters. That's going to be interesting. And he had like 4 units of bikes and a Wraith Knight. And I was like, wow. And he goes, hey, man, I've never played a competitive game of 40K before. I just got my army's just horrendous, but this is, I'm very new. And I was like, oh, whew. I was like actually kind of terrified. Now, mind you, my list I feel is counter to Eldar. And I said, okay, well, just so you know, I said, I play Eldar. I can help you out. Like, I can. If you need to know something, just ask me what it does. I can give you the options, and then you can choose what you want to do. I said, but I am here to win, so don't feel bad. Like I kind of gave him the whole spiel. Like, I'm actually here to do really well and try to, be competitive. So I'm going to kind of be that guy. But I said, but I'll give you the options, and we'll have a good game. And it was a lot of fun. And we probably sat there for 40 minutes after the game and talked about the changes he should make to his list, because he didn't even put a scatter laser on his Wraith Knight. I remember I ran into him like 2 days later, and he's like, man, do you know how much more stuff I could have killed if I had a scatter laser just to shoot and charge? And then I was like, yeah, man. He's like, next time I'll be ready. I was like, it was an awesome game. He was a wicked guy to meet. So round 2, Dan?
Round 2, I played Stephen Shanley, Battle Company. It was I don't remember what mission 2 is, honestly. But it was a full Battle Company, Dreadnoughts and White Scars and Grav and Meltas and all that good Battle Company stuff. Highlight of the game was definitely Magnus walking around. Oh yeah, it's Relic. That's right.
Yeah,
highlight of the game was Magnus walking around holding the Relic and just beaming people because he could see everyone. End of the game, there was a Dreadnought and a Tac Squad alive.
Wow,
sick.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. It was a great game. Really nice guy, really smart guy. Quiet, but definitely knew what he was doing. He just. I don't know if he was prepared for the Magnus onslaught.
Yeah.
Prepared for
Logan, your game 2?
My game 2 was against one of the top demon players, a guy named Trent Northington. And I will sum it up by saying it was a really, really fun game. He's a great guy to play against. I got my ass handed to me, but I learned a hell of a lot.
Oh, elimination.
Yeah,
So for those of you who don't know, once you lose a game, you're out of top
no,
8.
not quite. Out of top 8 for sure, yeah. I got
sucks.
0 point. No, 1 point that game. 1 point. So it was not a good look. Trent really gave me a schooling in how to move block things with summoned units, and it did very, very well for him. So it was a good game.
Sick. Jeff?
My second game was probably against the most eclectic list I've ever seen. So this guy was a Grey Knight Cult Mech Eldar list. He had the Grey Knight formation, Nemesis Strike formation with level 3 Libby, a unit of a strike squad, 2 Dread Knights. Then he had a Cult Mech formation with the Dominus and a unit of 4 of the Grav servitors.
Okay.
And then he had your standard 4 units of Eldar bikes plus an Autarch, and maybe a couple of other things here or there, but that was about it. He was basically running the Drago. I thought it was interesting. So he was running Drago with the Dominus and the he had another GK Libby, the 2 Libbies, all with the destroyers, and basically gating of affinity the destroyers around and casting prescience, casting invis. So he's basically using that as like a mini shooting star.
Mm-hmm.
I guess like a pseudo Centurion star, just with more shots. And he was kind of gating that around to try to shoot stuff.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Game was kind of back and forth. I played a little cagey against him. Sacrificed the knight over there to kind of put him out of position. Shot Drago down as he decided to split him off to go for an objective. The really key turning point was a Dominus will wreck a knight in close combat because he's got so much haywire. I charged in through cover into his unit, called it a challenge because all my knights are characters. Dominus accepted. Hammer Wrath wounded him. He needs to roll a 2+. Rolled that 1. Instant death to Dominus.
Awesome.
So I legitimately felt bad for him. Because at that point, my knight just walked to the rest of his destroyers, and I just walked to the rest of his army, because now he can't ever hurt me. Similar to you, Logan, he had 1 destroyer that was fleeing combat. And I said, man, you want to call it? He's like, no, I'm going to make you kill that. I'm like, okay, I got 3 shooting knights and a close combat knight that are going to reach him, so...
Roll them dice.
Roll them dice. Roll them dice.
Cool. So that was a 10-1, I think, to me, or 10-0. I don't remember his score, but I got 10 points in that one.
Nice.
Sick. So my next game was this really nice guy, super chill. As I said, I didn't write down names in my notebook. I feel really stupid, but it was an awesome game. He had Knights and Space Marines. And so I'm like, cool, I'm going to set up. I get to go first. I'm going to put Magnus kind of up front. Because, it's like he has a little bit of grab, but like Knights shouldn't really do too much to me. We did get Knight fights, so I was like, okay, I can always jink if he seizes. And he seized, shot everything into Magnus, did 5 wounds. I was like, and he wasn't front and center. He was back right corner, but like forward in a ruin. And my princes were behind a wall, so that's what it was. Sorry. There's a building in a corner. My princes were out of line of sight, and he was like in front of them because I couldn't get him out of line of sight. And I wanted him to be in front of them for powers. And I was like, well, I'll just jink because I'm not going to be D-beaming or D-shotting turn 1 anyway because like I don't want to lose him, right? So I'd rather jink. So I did that. He took 5 wounds. I was like, geez, this is ridiculous. Like it wasn't even that much shooting either. It was just like I rolled 2s like crazy. And I'm like, okay, so I got to play super cagey. So I bump Magnus up, try to use the cover to my advantage. I'm like, okay, who's your warlord? That knight? Okay, he's getting all my D. I'm going to try to cripple the other knights. And then his turn 2, 1 grab Space Marine shot Magnus out of the freaking sky. 2 wounds. Like snap 6s.
Rough.
I was like, okay, Magnus dies. I was like, okay, I can't kill your knight. You get the relic. I'm winning Maelstrom. I'm just going to put everything into Maelstrom. And I'm going to be able to get the bonus points, so you'll win Relic, and that's kind of what I had to do. I just had to take the minor win, but it was super fun, and he was shocked. He was like, I can't believe I killed Magnus. He's like, this is unreal, and I'm like, it had to happen. I'm like, he's never died before, so and he was actually really happy that he was the first guy to kill my Magnus. So I was like, I would be happy too, bro. I would be happy too. Round 3, Dan.
Round 3 was Purge the Alien, so it was Kill Point mission, which is always a crazy mission, no matter what.
And the Maelstrom in this is fucked. It's like really hard to catch. Like the Maelstrom really complements the kill points because it's like really hard to do. You have to be a crazy scoring objective army to do it.
Yeah, as well as low kill points. You know, it's a very tough mission to dominate at all because it's crazy. It's well balanced in a way, in the sense that one of the missions is really heavily weighted one way, and the other mission's really heavily weighted the other way.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
So I played against Eldar, full angry Eldar. I was going first. He had 3 squads of Reapers, 6-man jet bikes, 2 Warp Hunters, Skathach, Void Shield, Farseer, something else. Derek Page, really smart guy, and he seized, and I was a little scared at that moment. He put 3 or 4 wounds on Magnus, I think, and he sank everything into it that he could. But luckily, I deployed, so he couldn't get a full alpha strike on him. Like he couldn't get the Warp Hunters in range, which is
they could kill him. Oh yeah,
they would dominate him pretty hard. That'd be bad. So I deployed way back, and I fought like tooth and nail the whole way through. Treason was my friend that day, because you know what's really good at killing Eldar is Eldar.
Oh yeah,
Dark Reapers are really good at killing jet bikes, and I took over a 6-man jet bike unit to shoot the rear of the Warp Hunter, and then I beamed through the couple buildings because Magnus sees everything.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was a good game. He was in I think he felt like he was in a really commanding spot at the first 3 turns, and then things started to turn the other way once Magnus got moving, you know. I ended up winning 10-1 in that mission. But he actually, a great player, really smart guy. He actually went 5-1.
Nice.
So, yeah,
it's pretty good. Logan?
My round 3 was against another Canadian guy, actually, from Edmonton, named, I want to say it was Steve or Sean, one of the two. Anyway, really fun game.
Steve from Canada.
Yeah, Steve from Canada. Everyone knows him. So he walks up to the table, pops down a CanHammer, and Cohort Cybernetica, so the Castellan robots with the dude and an Imperial Knight. And basically looks over at me and says, you know what? If you roll average, I'm not going to win this game. I'm like, you are completely correct. That's exactly what's going to happen. So he drops in his CanHammer. I interceptor 5 Riptides into a unit of Grav Devastators and do 0 wounds.
This is the story I like hearing.
Interceptor my Storm Surge into an assault squad and do 0 wounds. He then charges me. I get 2 marker whites on the assault squad. Overwatch 3 Riptides into it and do 1 wound. And then lose my commander on turn 1. Turn 2 rolls around. He shoots his Cohort Cybernetica and the 2 Grav guys into my Storm Surge. Does 10 wounds. I fail 8 invul saves and fail 8 of 8 Feel No Pains.
Oh, you suck.
The rest of the
roll better dice, Logan. Roll better. What's wrong with Oh my god.
These are the 1+ dice too. That's the worst part. That's
why.
They've had enough. So the rest of the game was me just jumping around with Riptides. I actually managed to whittle him down to only having about 3 or 4 models left at the end of the game. But he got way ahead on kill points. He just didn't have that many. So he won that. He was able to keep ahead on Maelstrom as well. So I ended up with I think 1 point that game. So not a good look on round 3.
Jeffrey?
This one is a tough one for me. 5 Knights, I can easily get ahead on kill points, but Maelstrom's a no go for me. I played against a list very similar to my first round, where he had Riptide Wing, had your Eldar with bikes and spiders, with another Scath Hatch with flamers. This time, though, he had a Psychana division, which he very nicely hid behind a huge line of sight blocking, so there was no way I was getting to him unless I wanted to get into Riptide Wing range. Again, played KG. He got ahead of Maelstrom. I got way ahead on kill points. He decided not to summon anything, obviously just not to give me any free kill points. Game basically was coming down to who could take King of the Hill. So turn 5, I have King of the Hill. And he forgot to land. I think he had something that was flying. I forget what was flying, but he forgot to land it. Oh, the Lord of Change. Forgot to land him. So turn 5, if the game ended, I would have won. Turn 6, he lands it, summons some demons. I bought him a turn. I kill off the demons. We're now tying King of the Hill. Goes into turn 7. which he then puts a unit of horrors down in terrain. Some die, they split into blues, and he hides the blues within King of the Hill contesting range. And I'm like, I got 2 knights, you got a unit of horrors and a unit of blues. I'm not killing them, and you're going to win King of the Hill. So ended up losing that one, I think 6-5, which was it was one of those tough. Well, it's the dice game, right? It was I couldn't blame the dice. It's what happens. I wouldn't have played the game any differently. I don't think he would have either. It just went on to turn 7, and that's the way. I maybe I got to learn to play Caleb and slow play.
Yeah. There's a lot of that going on. Cool. So my round 3 was against Thomas. I was actually kind of scared at first, but then I was like, because I'm like, oh man, like this could be rough. And then he's playing Battle Company, White Scars, the Calexis. So I was like, he's gonna win Maelstrom. I kind of went up to the table. I said, he's gonna win Maelstrom. I'm gonna win kill points. It only matters about the bonus points. So I kind of deployed my whole army in a corner. Like he basically, I believe I had first turn, but I deployed everything in a corner, like way out of range. And I was like, okay, if I get first turn, I deployed my princes out a bit so I could jump up, go, get first blood, and then run off the board. And it worked. So basically I went first, went up, bang. I made his bikes shoot a rhino, which killed it. I tried to kill a scout squad. I killed only 4. And I think I popped another rhino. And then boom, they all went off the board. And it was just Brims in a bastion and Pinks like in the corner. Like as tight as I could get them in the corner with the Herald. And so, of course, he had White Scars Battle Company. So he's like coming at me. And I'm like, okay. I was like, step 1, I got first blood. That means, and I'm like, he's going to get King of the Hill. It's Battle Company, right? Like,
yeah.
Unless I Nova him like 4 turns, like, it's going to be really hard. And then if all his stuff's clumped in the middle and I'm near it, he's going to kill Magnus or he's going to kill my princes. Easy. So I said, all I got to do is kill Khan. And that's it. So his turn, he does like essentially nothing. I think he might have killed 1 pink or not. No, he didn't. No, he killed 2 Brims. That was what he was. He killed 2 Brims. Nothing else was in range. So then I bring all my flying guys in right next to Khan, nuke Khan, and then I just ran away. And I just kept doing it. And then the whole game was me circling. And the game went 7 turns. And I flew around, and he killed a prince a turn. So this was like turn 3, kills a prince, kills a prince, kills a prince, kills a prince, game over, Magnus was there. There's this British guy came up, he was watching our game. And Magnus last turn took like 5, I think it was like he had taken a wound or 2. And then all of a sudden he took like 3 wounds. So I was like, oh. And it was like, well, if you do 2 wounds, we tie this game. And I was like, this is gonna suck. And this guy, I don't know if he was drunk or he could have been sober, but he's like, oh, and he was like getting all nervous. And he was touching his face. He's like, oh. And every time I'd roll a save, he'd be like, is Magnus gonna die? Oh my god, does he have 6 or 7 wounds? And I was like, I'm pretty sure he has 7, but he might only have 6. But because I'm like flustered at this point, right? I'm like, oh my god, like, and I'm like, if he rolls the dice, if he dies, he dies. I'm like, I got as far out of range as I could, but it's like, it's White Scars Battle Company, right? Like, he's shooting bolters and doing a wound here and there. I'm just like, oh, I'm like, if I fail this grounding check, he could be dead if he has 6 wounds. I'm like, I'm pretty sure he has 7, but I'll look it up. I didn't fail the grounding check, and I won the game, but it was like super nerve-wracking. But it was pretty good. Because it was like, it was funny too, because he was still worrying about Maelstrom, but like, I stopped writing down my Maelstrom. Because I rolled it the first turn, I was like, oh, I can't get any of those. Wrote them down. Then I rolled for turn 2. Oh, I can't score any of those either. Like, there's no possible way to score them. Because it's like, how many units can you get out of your zone? So I said, okay. And I actually stopped writing down my Maelstrom after turn 2. Because I was like, I didn't even want to force myself to think about it. I was like, I'm going to get kill points, 2 bonuses, and I'm just going to win. And that's it. I'm not going to risk anything else. And it worked out for me. So, won that game. So that's it. That night, should say Dieter won the night joust. So it was 1-on-1 night action. Dieter is a buddy of mine from Montreal, and his knight just went through all the rest, which is kind of cool. But now we'll get into day 2. So Dan, who'd you play round 1, day 2? And were you nervous, man? 3 wins?
Yeah.
3 wins?
Yeah, it was crazy. That was a big thing. 3 wins, like you said, if you want to make top 8, you have to not lose. If you lose, you're pretty much guaranteed out of top 8.
Yeah, so can we talk about that for a second before we move on? So they had published like a list of like how many Magnuses were undefeated still, because there was only like 30 players undefeated at this point, right, Logan?
Something like that, yeah.
31.
Yeah.
Is that right?
31.
31. Holy
Yeah.
31.
That was it. So there's only 31 of us out of like 380 that were undefeated. It was wild. So I'm like super nervous too. but there was only one. That's Rotari Warsect, undefeated day one,
Wow. So good.
and only four Magnuses undefeated round day one, I believe as well.
4 out of 30 is pretty good spread though.
3 of which were Canadians.
Nice.
Really? Well, that's actually pretty cool. Yeah.
I think there was even a Dark Eldar too that he did pretty well for the whole tournament. He was undefeated. He went with 5-1, I think.
5-1.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, if you guys go back and watch the LVO coverage, round 3 was actually a huge upset round. A lot of the players that a lot of people were expecting to make it to top 8 got knocked out or knocked themselves out or drew or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a pretty big round. So
A draw didn't take you out though, but yeah.
Yeah, a draw didn't take you out, but it was risky, obviously. So anyway.
So go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
Yeah, so we made it to. So we all got our pairings the night before. I ended up playing a really cool guy named Michael Snyder, one of the Relentless D guys.
It's a fun dude.
Really cool guy. Really good regular opponent of Brandon Grant, who you will hear about later. He actually, like, his list. They played the exact same list. They literally played the exact same list. Like he handed me the list and it said Brandon Grant slashed out Michael Snyder's Dark Angel list, like literally the exact same piece of paper. Really interesting thing. A full battle company, Grav, Melta, Judd in a drop pod, and a Bark Star. So that means you're looking at 40 hounds. You're looking at Azrael, a chaplain, and a priest to make them reroll saves. Very durable unit.
Not Guadius, right?
Yeah, Lion's Blade. Yeah. Sorry, Dark Angel Battle Company.
It's all the same to me, man. Rhinos and power armor.
Imperial crap.
OBSEC. Come on, man.
I love Battle Company. It's one of the coolest armies in the game.
I like Lion's Blade. It's my favorite.
It's pretty cool. Anyway, so I played against Michael Snyder. Really smart guy. Round 4 was scouring.
Yes.
That's what it was, scouring. So like 6 objectives, which is really good for a Bark Star because they have to be within range of an objective pretty much the whole game. Great game. Came down to a very important, crazy roll. I pulled Enfeeble on Kairos, which is great. But what that means is I enfeebled the Bark Star, dropping them down in toughness, right? And then I used Magnus's Focus Witchfire power and allocated all of the Strength 6 shots to Azrael. And he failed Lookout Sir, and he failed his Invol, and Azrael died. Which is a pretty big deal for a Bark Star. That means the Bark Star basically disintegrates after that. They don't have a save. They're just gonna die pretty fast.
So good.
And then I just flew around blowing up Marines. What? 6 up armor. Yeah, sorry.
6 up armor.
You're right. They have that. You're right. That's something. He did get to take it once, I think. Anyway, yeah. So that's what that came down to. After that, it was a game changer. We both knew that immediately. As soon as that happened, we knew it was a game changer. There's nothing that it is pretty tough to come back from that kind of thing. Plus, I had the mask, which shuts down any kind of Bark Star anyway. Fantastic game, really cool guy, really smart guy. We talked a lot. We added friends on Facebook.
He Facebook friended me too. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, he's a cool guy.
He's a nice
very
guy,
smart guy. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, great game. I ended up winning 11-0.
Nice.
Cool. Logie?
My round 4 was against a very similar list to my round 3. So it was Skyhammer plus Strike Force Ultima, which is the big box set that GW was selling a while ago. Spoilers, it's terrible. Never use it. Or so we found out. So anyway, he drops his Skyhammer in. Basically, I castle up in a corner because I know he's got to come in with everything. And much like the last game, if my Interceptor works, I just sort of win this because he has to throw everything at me or I'm just going to pick it off piecemeal. So he comes in and Storm Surge kills the entire Devastator squad. A single Riptide kills the other Devastator squad. And then I clean up a unit of Terminators except for his Warlord who's in Cataphractii armor and I think like 2 Assault Marines with the rest of the Riptides. And the game was basically over on turn 2. So that was a big win for me. Sort of the polar opposite of the dice rolls from the previous game.
Sick. Well, that's awesome. So you're 2-2. That's good way to catch up.
Yeah.
Jeff?
My game 4 was against a pure KDK, Khorne Demon Kid. He had like a D Thirster. He had, I think, 2 10, 12-man sized dogs. The Bikers, a unit of Chosen, because whatever formation was, they were the tax. A Mauler Fiend, some Cultists. And then like a that the Warlord on a Juggernaut with that axe that turns him into a Bloodthirster when he dies. This game is one of those games where I'm like, okay, if it's hammer and anvil, so I can kind of deploy up and then pull back and shoot him. And I should have it. So it goes on, and he gets into combat, and when he gets into a combat with he usually kills a knight. I ended up stomping out his Warlord with the axe, so the D-Thirster comes in, and I think I stomped out the D-Thirster on a 6, so that was good.
Very good. Yeah, because that thing just kills knights.
Yeah, so this one, again, is hard for me for primary, though, because, again, having 5 models and 6 objectives, I just can't hold them. But 3 of the Maelstrom are kill somethings, which would have really helped if I had rolled those. Because normally, and Dan knows this when we played, if I get 2 kill somethings, I can usually kill 3 things. So, and it just goes on, and it was one of these games where if any of these 5 things happened, I told you about all these guys. If I made a 7-inch charge, I win. A 6-inch charge, I win. A 4-inch charge, I win. A 3-inch charge, I win. Or if the game goes past turn 5, I win. And none of those happens, and I end up losing. I think I end up losing with 3 points to his 8 or 9. So it stung a little.
It's too bad. So my next game was like nerve-wracking. I've never played Pylon Stars before, Necron Pylon Star. So I was like super nervous, and it was probably for the better. Really nice guy. I forget your name. I said I didn't write anything down because I was relying on technology. But anyway, listener of the podcast, nice guy. And I'm just like so scared of those pylons. Like I was terrified. So I'm asking around, asking another Necron Pylon Star player, like, what does it do? Because like we told me the night before, but we told me all the wrong rules. Like it only has 12-inch range. It's not, and I'm like, okay, so I can plan for this.
What a dick.
They'll be like, no, it's 24, blah blah blah. So I'm like, gosh, okay. And they're like, but Magnus just makes it shoot itself and kills it. And I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, Magnus can make them shoot themselves, and then they die. And I was like, really? I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Well, no, it's because it's worded, and they had this whole case on it. And I was like, okay. So I rock up to the table, and I'm like, hey, man, playing Magnus, and just so you know, we did our pleasantries. And I said, just so you know, Magnus can make you shoot yourself, and it's horrible. And he's like, no, he can't. And I was like, no, he can. It's like already been ruled earlier.
Do you want to explain why he can shoot himself? Because you can't make the unit target himself with shooing.
So there's a few interesting parts of this, yeah.
There's several interesting parts. There's FAQs and there's all this stuff. So basically you can't target yourself. Now, this isn't 100% of the story, but Magnus says that you shoot as if you're my unit. It doesn't say you become my unit. So it's like almost like you're shooting as if you're in my army, but your own unit's not in your army, right? But normally you can't shoot yourself. It says so in the rules. But they're allowed to target and beam through friend and foe models. And then there's something else in there, too. I don't know.
The other part of it is that beam attacks do not actually target a unit.
Yeah.
So it's just 2 points on the table, and anything in between gets hit. Because one of the nasty, tricky things you do... A lot of people argue
the shit out of that. People are like, no, I can jink beams. I was like, you can't. But I let people have that.
Yeah, so that one depends on your comp, right? But the filthy thing you can do with the Pylon Star, especially if you play in ETC, in ETC format, you can't actually use them in ETC because they're Forge World, but basically anything that allows come the apocalypse is you just summon something, put it in front, and then multiply all your hits by killing your own unit with it.
Yeah, and like ITC also fact it that you only get the hits for the unit that you hit.
Yep.
It doesn't go for all of them. So anyway, whatever. I just said, you know what, man? The game hasn't started yet. This is how I want to play it. You disagree. Let's go up to the judges table and we'll talk about it. And so the judges read all the rules and they ruled in favor of me. Again, I don't know if they ruled on the other one or not. I thought that they would, but they said Pylon Stars basically gave them the biggest headache of the event. They said, you're like the millionth Pylon Star question we've gotten. And so we talked about it, and I said, okay, so now you know what I'm going to do. It could we hadn't even deployed or anything. So I was like, now you can do whatever you want. And he decided to deploy his stuff straight up in the grill and play for the Seize the Initiative. He's like, I'm going to seize. I'm going to put everything into Magnus and maybe a pink unit, see if I can blow him up, or maybe a prince. So I was like, I'm going first. Magnus is here, and 17 inches away I have a prince. 17 inches away I have a prince behind him, and 17 inches away I have another prince. And then I had pinks in cover. And I was like, well, you can only ever do 6 wounds to Magnus if I fail all my invul saves, so he can't die. And so he went for the C's. He didn't get the C's. I went up. I said, okay, your Pylon Star is going to shoot your Wraiths because they're going to kill my Pinks. Blew the Wraiths up. Then I killed 2 of his characters with D-beams and stuff because, lookout Sirs and did a bunch of wounds, but they didn't really do much. And then he he basically veiled his Pylon Star, killed my Pinks. And I was like, yeah, you're going to kill my Pinks with the Herald. That's going to happen. Can't stop that. And then I said, now your Pylon Star is going to shoot itself, and it blew up. And then Magnus had something like 15, 16 Warp Charge left, and he was looking at 15 Necrons and a tank. And I was like, and he tapped, so it was 11 points.
That's so brutal. It's so
it was
funny,
like,
but it's so
I wanted to explain it just because, like, it was like the most rock, paper, scissors match I think I've ever played.
I mean, if you want to pause the game, but you did the right thing, though. If I was the Pylon guy, and all of a sudden I didn't understand that, and you surprised that with me in game, I'd be super salty. But I think you did the right thing. You got the judge ruling, which isn't you not being an asshole getting the judge ruling. It's just you saying, "Hey, let's get an official ruling on this," and you told him what you're going to do. Yeah,
like that's
you told him what you're going to do, and you're like, "This is my whole plan. You can do whatever you want, but this is my plan." So you gave him all the outs, and just it's a bad matchup.
And I think I threw 7 dice at it. It's a Warp Charge 3. And Magnus, like when I was like, okay, your Pylon started shooting itself, I think I threw 7 dice. I was like, I'm not even going to risk the ones. Like, I was like, because it's game over. Like, there's no point in not. Because I've done that before, like, roll like 4 or 5 dice. I'm like, no, it's going off. You can't stop it. But, yeah, I think you have to do that. Like, I think when you get later, a lot of people were surprising people with, like, oh, I know this. Like, I didn't want to win because, oh, I knew a ruling and he didn't. And so I fucked you. I wanted it to be like, you knew prior to the game, like he could have split his Pylon Star apart if he wanted to.
And Pylon
the army
Star
doesn't work like that though.
Pylon Star is an army that it's a gimmick, but it catches people offline because it just it hits so many, and it's not fun when you play against it and you don't know what it's doing.
That's the trick too. Is I think it does the same thing to other people as I did to it. But
yeah,
it was cool. He took it like a champion, and we had a great game. Very nice. I wish I remembered his name. He was an excellent opponent, and he retired. He's going to retire the Pylon Star. So we'll go on to game 5. Dan.
Yep. So game 5, I went into. This is actually the first time I see the tables in order too. So I was on table 3, which is pretty cool. I played against Aaron Townler. Really smart guy, really cool guy again. Chicago area guy, and he had a gorgeous war convocation converted out of a bunch of mechanical models. Lots of cool stuff. He had 3 units, or a unit of sisters, and a Dooncrawler and a knight, and all the fun war convocation. And the Libby Conclave. So Libby Conclave, Sisters of Silence, and war convocation. Right. So yeah, really cool game. I rolled like a beast that game. I think I rolled like 6 or 7 like clutch 6s, like strength 6 no. Like so he was really aggressive with his infiltrators and his rust stalkers, and I rolled 2 sets of 6 like strength 6 novas.
Wow.
Which just devastated because they're AP4, so they're instant death. So all it gets is a 6-up save. And they just evaporate, right?
Yeah.
I beam through and kill the few librarians in the unit, and then I go up against his knight the next turn, and I kill him with 1D shot. Like, rolled a 6 to go through the invul, rolled a 5 to blow him up, rolled another 5 to explode him with 3 more hard points. He's dead. Like, at that point, he was just done. He was a great guy, took it like a champ, no issue. Like, we chatted through the rest of the tournament, really nice guy. But at that point, like the dice are against him, and the dice are for me at that point. So that's what it came down to. We tapped in. It was 11-0. Really cool guy though. He went 5-1.
So yeah, on table 3, that's pretty awesome. Logan, how'd you go? What table were you on? Do you remember?
Like 130 something. not too high up. I played against someone that a lot of Tau players will probably know just from the various Facebook groups, named Nikhil, I think is how you pronounce his name. Apologies if that's wrong. But absolutely gorgeous army. It was all custom posed. All the bases for it were done with Tyrannid bits. So like his Storm Surge is standing there. He got the arms for it as well. I can't remember what company makes them, but had those and had it modeled so that there was a Moloch on the ground that the Storm Surge was stomping on and shooting a missile into its face. A bunch of other guys were like had gargoyles flying around on the bases. Just absolutely beautiful army. I think he got second place Renaissance Man, something like that, at the end of the event. It was done very, very well. Interestingly, this was the second Tau versus Tau match I've ever played, and the only other one was against Dan. So I did better than I did against Dan, which is nice. I actually used a lot of the tricks I learned from that game, which was great. It actually got me really, really close. The game was just on a razor's edge the entire time. Basically, he was running exactly the same list I was, but instead of the Sisters of Silence, he had an Ivara in there as well.
Which would help him.
Which would help him if it...
Sisters don't stop Tau.
No, Sisters do. Sisters actually almost won me that game, is the craziest part, just for holding objectives. But basically, it came down to us kiting each other around, and he did something I really didn't expect, which is I had 2 Riptides that were in range of his Riptides, but out of line of sight. And he just hail-fired with ripple-firing smart missiles, and actually managed to do 10 wounds across 2 Riptides, which was really surprising.
Wow.
But just took them right out, and that was the game right there. I had no way to really contest it. And that was after I took out his Warlord and his Ivara earlier on in that game.
Did you run the numbers on that? Like is that statistical, or is that...
It's unlikely. It's not completely out of the realm of probability, but it's very unlikely. 1 Riptide, yeah. Two is strength.
Okay, so he took a chance and it worked out.
Yeah, it did. It worked out great for him. And props to him for doing that. It was an incredibly smart move. But the game came down to the end of it is I had a crisis suit on the backfield near his stuff, holding an objective and getting line breaker. And he shot it with a round of SMS, did 3 wounds. I needed to pass 2 saves to not die, and I failed 2 saves. And that swung it from a 6-5 win for me to a 6-5 win for him.
Well, at least it was close.
Yeah, it was a super tight game. It was a lot of fun.
That's all that matters if it's fun.
Yeah.
Jeffrey, your game 5?
I played against a really nice looking list. It was a Harlequins and Dark Eldar list. He basically had I think 6 units of Reaver jet bikes. I don't know the Harlequins list too well, so he had a couple ones that were just vehicles and a couple of the transports that I think 3 transports that had Harlequins on the inside. And he rolled his power from pain, and he got +1 toughness on all his Dark Elf jet bikes, which is a big deal for him because now I'm wounding them on 3s instead of 2s with my shooting.
Yeah.
And all his jet bikes, when they do Hammer Wrath, he had a couple of them that do D6, Strength 6 Hammer Wrath, so if he gets in the rear, he can do some damage. He basically he spread out across the board. He got a couple. I got a charge, long bomb charge first turn, which was good. He killed a couple knights, but the turning point was where he charged 2 units of Harlequins into my Warlord with the 4+ save in close combat. A bunch of auto glancing hits, haywire, and I survived with 2 hull points. When he probably could have put around 12 hull points in my knight, and I survived with 2. So I got really lucky, and then he ended up failing every leadership test on 4 units, on 11s and 10s and 9s, and they ran off the board, and that was, again, then I was just mopping him up after that. So I ended up winning that game with full points, 11-1. He tapped after turn 4, and just when he had I think 2 or 3, 1 or 2 units left on the table, a couple models each.
Sick. So second last game, I played Justin Curtis, who had Magnus. He had a very similar list to Dan's, except he had the Void Shield Generator and no mask. So I was glad to see no mask because that just counters Magnus really well. It was a scary matchup, Not a lot's going to happen on both sides. He doesn't have a lot of Skyfire. And if he's close enough to Skyfire me, I'm close enough to Skyfire and Shriek him. So it's kind of a trade-off. So we kind of did a flyby. And then I made a really big mistake. And I got greedy. I wanted to clear out his backfield. And I wanted to completely clear it out. Because I kind of wanted to do a board trade, knowing that I had more units. He would have a Screamer Star, Kairos, and Magnus. And then I wanted to kill everything else. Because my backfield was covered with 4 units of pinks that I summoned round 1. So I was so if I take his end, he has to get through a ton of pinks and blues. A crazy amount. And then, which he could do easily, but it's going to tie him back there, and then I'm going to, theoretically win. But I dropped down. I got lucky he failed his Grimoire because he was going to tie me down with some Plague Bearers, Magnus. I shouldn't have dropped down. I should have just flown in circles. I don't know what I was thinking. I was just getting greedy. But it ended up just being a tie all the way through. So, which is pretty good. Justin's known for being a very good player, so I'm happy with the tie against him.
Very cool.
But would have been nice to win, but I know that a lot of people wanted one of us to win. I know that there's a lot of comments on they wanted one of the Magnuses out of the top, because I was on table 6, I think. Sean was on the table next to me, and they wanted one of us gone. They wanted one Magnus gone, maybe 2, because I think it was known that Dan was moving on, so they were like, well, that Dan had 1, so they're like, well, we want all the Magnuses to lose, because he's pretty hard counter to Eldar, right? So
Yeah.
but yeah, that was my game. It's pretty good. So we'll go on to last round for you, Dan.
Last round of day 2, I got to play Mr. Matt Root,
Oh,
the big
you.
man himself.
And the bromance
really cool guy.
began.
Yeah, really. No, we had a great game. First minute we talked to each other, we hit it off no problem. We very very good player alchemy, as they call it down in LVO land. Yeah, we got along really well. We played a awesome game. Came down to the last minute. Oh, the heart. Yeah, that was pretty great. The heart was like amazing. I couldn't. When I saw that, I was freaking out. It was so funny. Anyway, great game. It came down to me absolutely just tanking Fate Weaver, which sucked. It was a straight draw in the end. I won primary, he won secondary. I think it was first blood, and he got Warlord. And
Wow.
I by killing Warlord, like he killed Warlord with grav shots, in like a wound off the grav shots, and then his Doom Crawler fired into him. He took 5 wounds, and I rolled 4 2s and a 1, and then rerolled the 1 to a 1, and Fate Weaver just died. Like he's dead. Good night.
Oh, you
Yeah,
ran
that's the
Fate Weaver
picture.
as your warlord.
Yeah, Fate Weaver is definitely Warlord because I wanted the demonic incursion and the reroll from him. So
Yeah, you
or
were
not the
demons.
demonic
That's right.
incursion. Yeah, it's primary demon, so I
I
wanted
ran
the
Magnus.
big roll. Yeah.
I was surprised
so
that
it
you
was
didn't do that.
Sorry.
I was just surprised because like Magnus would deny Warlord, but then that's cool. Sorry, keep going. I don't know.
No, I wanted Magnus to kind of pull the shots, and if he died, not give up Warlord. That was my reasoning behind it, because I could hide Fate Weaver a little bit. I could protect him if I needed to.
Not anymore.
Oh yeah, I also like the turn that he killed Fate Weaver is the turn I rolled 4 dice on Iron Arm and rolled 4 ones.
Ugh.
So I was like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah, that
Gross.
sucks. That's smart.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a great game, fantastic game. Straight draw right down the middle. I think it was 6-6 if I remember correctly. Yeah, solid game for sure. We played down to the wire. So yeah,
And that was
and
all
luckily
table-
that was table 2.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Logan, your game 6, last game.
Yep, my game 6 was against a guy I know from Facebook, actually, named Ian. He was running a Thunderwolf Star with a Librarius Conclave and a bunch of Wolfen. So this list is actually really scary to play against for Monster Mash Tau, because if it gets the first turn, it's got something like a 33-inch charge range, and it's just going to kill anything it touches. So Ian took a huge gamble. He knew he had to seize on a 5-up. And he knew that just with the way I had deployed with the Sisters of Silence where they were, that he really wasn't going to have a chance to get in unless he got in turn 1, because his power is going to shut down. Units are going to get erased. So he deployed like straight up on the line, ready to get that charge against me, cornered in the back corner. He didn't get the seize though, unfortunately, and that sort of sealed his fate from there. So just between that and powers, if he had gotten a follow up to that, it's a good chance he would have done some serious damage. But it was too much on turn 1 just with the aggressive deployment. So that was
Cool.
11-0 for me to finish off the event.
That's nice. That'll bump you up a little bit. Do you remember what table it was on, or?
No. Not a significant amount.
It would bump you
finished
up substantially.
Finished me
right?
off in like 150th place, which is 85 ITC points or something. Like, it wasn't a huge amount, but it was like, I'm happy with 3-3 at the biggest event there is, because the games I lost, I learned a lot from, which is really what I care about. So it's pretty happy
I agree.
with it.
I agree. Like Aisha said too. Like when I played Justin, I learned a ton about demons. So pretty happy as well. Jeff.
My turn 6 started off really well. He was a Brit. He walked to the table and handed me a beer, and that's always a good way to get
Nice.
into
Oh
my
yeah,
heart.
that's right.
He had looked at my list on the app, and he's basically like, I know your list. This is probably not going to be a good game for me. He basically he was just running jet bike spam with a D shooting knight, which in ITC isn't that great. A sword and board knight's better against my list. Yeah, because I can still get my invul saves, and you need to roll at 6, but I'll be into you quicker, Chris. Don't shake your head at me.
I love that D Knight, man. That D Knight kills so much.
It does. It does. So he kind of looked at my list, and he's like, "Listen, I only ever play 5-game tournaments. I'm tired. I flew in yesterday morning. I'm still super jet lagged." So I kind of looked at him. And he's like, "I can give you a game because I know you're running for best nights." And I said, "You can, or we can just go to the bar and have beers." And he's like, "It's a good idea." So we rolled a couple of dice to say we played a game, and then we hit the bar. And I drank for my third round. Or sixth round.
And that's actually a guy who had previously been on our podcast. It's the guy who runs the London GT.
Oh,
Exactly. Yeah, he's a really, really cool guy. We had a great chat. Yeah, I like him. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah, he's really nice. Yeah. So my last game, I played Will. Tau. Took the kind of Tau list you don't want to see with 3 Princes and Magnus. He had Drone Net, so he had intercepting marker lights. He had 3 Sky Rays. He had 3 Riptides and a Storm Surge.
Yep.
And I went, shit, you're going to kill me. I have to go first. That's like literally, I was like, I have to go first. Nope, he got first turn, null deployed, put pinks in one corner, brims in the other. He spread out like a champion, did the right move, moved everything forward too. Came in, he intercepted, failed my grounding test on my 1 prince. Dead. Next turn, I failed the drowning test on my other prince. He died. Magnus killed some stuff. It just like, my army just fell apart. Like I was beaming stuff and it would be like 1-1. I failed my beam actually twice, my D beam in a row, 2 turns in a row. And I had a psychic, I don't normally blame dice, but I had a psychic phase where I only got 1 spell off with Magnus.
That's rough.
And like he cast on 2 like we watched it. That's the only reason I remember it is because we watched it and then talked about it afterwards. And I was like, oh, that's right. He's like, yeah, you just failed every power. And I was like, yeah. So he took me he just brutalized me. And it was like 11-1 or something like that. It was rough. But it's like it's when you take those princes, you just know that they're gonna die to Tau.
Yeah,
it's just the way it is.
That's true.
So he actually made top 8. I didn't. So we were actually still in contention. It was pretty interesting. So I was happy that I got eliminated last round, I guess. I went about as far as you can go without going.
Yep, that's true.
Good. So, spoiler alert, Dan made top 8. Congratulations. The rest of us didn't.
The rest of us got drunk and played Night Joust.
Yeah!
I had to...
Night Joust, and then we'll get back and Dan can run through his games.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to run. He can talk about them because there's one that I think he needs to talk about. But anyway, so the Night Joust, we were planning this out for months in advance, and
by months you mean weeks or days,
or in the
minutes.
case of my team, literally seconds.
Minutes.
So we showed up. We took 2 Chaos Knights. It was me, Jeff, and Joe, or Jeff, Joe, and myself. And so we were like, we need a name. So we were like, Jujika, Kujija. We went with Jukaja. JCJ. Jukaja. So we were like going nuts. We brought the 2 double Gattlers, and he brought his crazy D Knight.
A Lancer.
And then Logan's team, you guys were the ringer team, right?
We were team default. And
Chris, all combat knights.
It was had Stubby.
We had Stubby, who was a
you had extra arm. Chris had Stubby.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We had an extra arm. We had 2 close combat knights and 1 and the Lancer, the close combat knight, and 1 warden.
You had 2 gallons and a warden. That was it.
Right.
I had the Lancer.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
You're using my models.
That's right. We killed their Lancer. That's what it was. So yeah, we planned it out real well. We showed up, and they're like, "We need one more team." And somebody came over and said, it's taken care of. Somebody paid for you. They're like, wait, who paid for us? Why are we doing this? We don't even have knights. We don't have dice. We don't have tape measures. So we became the glorious team default. And our strategy consisted of run straight forward and try to make our knights explode and kill their knights. And it almost worked. It didn't work. Didn't work at all. We got the other team down to 1 knight with like 2 hull points left, but all of ours were dead.
Yeah.
So that was fun. It was a single elimination. It was hilarious. I don't think I've had that much fun yelling and screaming playing Warhammer in years.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Because we're like talking all this shit, and like we show up there and we're like, we had a battle plan. Like Jeff and I had a plan, and Joe didn't really say much, but we had a plan. And like, these were all fluff bunnies. All fluff bunny teams. These guys are like, oh yeah, the one guy had like a Tyranid like converted knight.
Fluff bunny to the point where one of the guys said, "What's the range on a melt-a-gun?"
That is an actual quote.
8 inches. Yeah, and so we're like,
it's 8 inches, right?
oh, we're like, we got this. they got 2 Gattlers, we got 4 Gattlers. Okay, so we're like, we got this. We didn't have that at all. So like we deploy up, we throw everything in a corner, which was against our battle plan, and Joe just didn't speak up. Like Joe's
Joe's still
Everything
yells
was
at
Joe's
us
fault.
right now. The rest of the turn, it was all my fault apparently. Yeah, of course.
So we just like went at him, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna shoot 4 Gatlings in your front. Oh, we do 1 hull point. Oh, you're gonna shoot 2 Gatlings in Joe's front and do 4 hull points. Wow. And it just kept going like that, and all our knights exploded, and we had only done we killed 1 knight, and
We killed one night, 1 hull point on another, and that was
it. And we had
So team-
double the shots of them.
Team Default did better than Team Jikaja.
So we got eliminated. So next year we're just gonna go all Forge World. I'm thinking 3 Lancers and just
There you
rush
go.
at people.
So what happened in our game? Actually, this was the icing on the cake. So the one thing that was left was the Knight Atropos, the one with the D blast, the Vortex. He shoots it between our 2 knights, rolls the 6, and kills 2 of them. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
That's so bad.
It was
Okay,
great.
so now on to serious 40k. Top 8
Yeah,
Dan.
that sounds like a good time. I unfortunately had to be on top table behavior.
Yes.
6 games
Well-
is a lot of Warhammer, and
Don't forget, Dan skipped out on our mimosas deal.
I did.
You said, Dan,
Did.
you would do
So bad.
mimosas on the Sunday morning and get loaded, but you had to go and win your games.
Yeah, I owe you next year for sure. Everyone, we're going to Hex on the Friday morning. No, on the Thursday morning.
Thursday morning, yeah.
Thursday
Yeah,
morning.
recover from
Everyone, Hex right in the morning. Remember that. Plan ahead. Anyway, so yeah, top 8. Highly stressful situation. They took us all outside the night before, kind of went through everything. That's where that picture came from, with the top 8 in the front there. Then the next day they were like, okay, yeah, you don't have to be on stream. We'll go find the 6th seed, or the 9th seed. Okay, they're serious. You have to give us your cell phones. We have to go find the 9th seed. Okay, and so they were like super serious about it, which is great. Very, very smart. We appreciate the seriousness. So we went into my game. I was playing against Carter Leach, playing Corsairs. You could tell the intensity of the game fairly early on. At first we were like joking around, jovial, having a great time, and once dice started rolling, we were pretty serious about the game for sure. Top 8 was pretty stressful. There were mistakes made on both sides of the game. He had a heavy Alpha Strike potential, so I null deployed everything. Minus a pink horror unit and a brimstone unit hiding as best as they possibly could. So he got a very good lead on Maelstrom. Came down to combat where I had to kill a couple guys in combat with the Screamer Star, which I finally killed off. So I won primary, and he passed 20 out of 20 Shadowfield saves on his Warlord on turn 5. Finally failed 1. And then on turn 4 and then turn 5, I finally sniped him with Magnus, and that was the game decider. So it came down to tertiary. So I won primary and 3 tertiary points, and he won secondary or Maelstrom and got 2 tertiary points. So it was an intense game for sure. We went back and forth quite a bit, and yeah, I mean it was a serious game for sure. But I did pull it out in the end by 1 point.
Right on.
So,
congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah. So I went on to round 8, which is a painful thing to think about. Yeah, for sure. No, it's a lot of Warhammer.
It's wild, man.
Yeah, for sure. So we moved on to round 8. I played against Brandon Grant, like I was talking about before. Great player, very smart. You can go check it out. I think it was on Frontline stream.
Yeah.
It was on the Warhammer stream. It was on the Frontline stream, right? So yeah, you can actually go back and watch it. Great game. Very, very civil, very smart, very tactical. It was awesome. Really just like one of the best games of 40K I played in a long, long time. It was fantastic because it was perfectly tactical and strategic, and there was, I think there was maybe 1 minor rules judge call. I don't even know if we did actually. I think they just came up and said, "Hey, this is a thing." Like, oh, okay. But no, it was great, absolutely great. I made 1 fatal mistake. I think I bombed the Grimoire, which just sucks. That sucks for any game player. And I should have moved my Screamer Star backwards, but I moved it forward to counter his Maelstrom lead. But really, I should have just given up on Maelstrom and let him take that and keep my Screamer Star alive. If I had done that, I feel like I would have won the game. I failed a hit and run check with the mask. If I passed that, I feel like I would have won the game. If I passed the ground check on Fate Weaver, I could have used the reroll, probably would have won the game. And then if it had gone on turn 6, I probably win the game. So it was an intense game. It came down to a lot of like single rolls, which is the way as a competitive player you want to lose. If you're going to lose, you don't want to get tabled. You want to win by the closest point possible, right?
Yeah.
So he had actually played a list almost exactly like mine the round before, and then I, like I said before, played his main gaming partner in round 4. So we're both quite familiar with our lists. It came down to, in my opinion, like by turn 2, I was like, King of the Hill decides the game. That's it. King of the Hill, whole game. So I went for it hard, and it just didn't work out. So I ended up losing that round. I don't remember the score, actually. But
it's okay.
he killed my whole
Okay.
Screamer Star.
You did an awesome run, man. That's so impressive. But
Awesome.
I want to touch on that point that you made, because I think it's a really good call. Is like, that's the double-edged sword of like competitive 40K. Is like when you're in these top matches, it's that one grounding check, that one, like the entire, like if everybody plays smart and you both took really good, well-balanced armies that were prepared for the scenarios, it's like it always comes down to 1 or 2 die rolls, and that's just the, like I love that about it, but I also hate that about it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I guess it's better than like in chess when there's like a stalemate in chess. They just stop playing. We can't do that, but it's like, part of me wishes we could stalemate a little bit more. But
yeah, I know what you mean. No, it was a great game. It came down to, like you said, a couple very key rolls. Goes my way, I win. Goes his way, he won. So he ended up winning the game. He went on to play against Brett Perkins. I didn't get a chance to actually watch the game because I was trying to, breathe and decompress after playing 8 games of Warhammer in a row. But Brett Perkins won LVO. Congratulations to him.
Yeah.
Brandon did a great job though. Brett Perkins won the LVO. Brandon got second, and I actually ended up pulling third.
Sick.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Not to jump
man.
ahead too far, but yeah.
So let's go right into that. So you won a few awards. So let's go through the awards.
Yeah.
Like, we got to wrap this up and then get on to the question and answer and Pimp My List.
Yeah.
But what other awards did you win?
Yeah, so I got third place at the LVO, which is, for me, ridiculous because it's the biggest championship tournament in the history of Warhammer, which is unbelievable. So third place is a victory for me. Totally happy with that. I got the best demon player at the LVO. So that's pretty cool. I also somehow snagged the best ITC player for demons of 2016 of the whole year. I got
with only 4 games.
With 4 event scores.
Well,
yeah.
4 is the max for best infection.
4 is the minimum. Oh, so I guess it's the max.
Well, it's a
you
max
only
you
have
can
4
get, but
scores.
you only play at the 4. That's my point.
Right.
Yeah.
But it also goes to show you how important the LVO is if you're going for any sort of overall for the year. To the LVO, you need to be there. Unless you're David Koska, then you can still win Militarum Tempestus by not being on the LVO.
Yeah, you can still do it. It ended up, being third place in the LVO was worth a lot of ITC points. So yeah, so apparently I was the best demon player of all 2016. That was pretty cool.
Sick.
And at the LVO, and then I got third place. So totally happy with that. Absolutely jazzed. Oh, and the top 8 dice and everything. It was a dream come true. It was absolutely the coolest thing ever, for sure.
Oh, awesome. We're all happy for you, man. It's like so cool. Like I was like so just like Allison would just come like every turn and just be like giving me updates while I'm playing and stuff. I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah, me too.
So Jeff,
that was
you.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
You won some
I'll
awards.
put them later. I did, and they're right there. I made sure they're on the stream. These were, Dan didn't bring his, but these were really cool. These were the Placus apparently is coming. These were the best of faction for LVO. So I got the
Space Marine hand holding a chainsword.
Yeah,
GW trophy for those listening.
Apparently these came from Games Workshop gave them. So I won best of faction knights. I came in 57th overall, which I think is pretty good. I went 4-2 for the weekend, and then somehow even coming in 57th, I took third best Renaissance man. Which what that says to me is if I came in 57th and took third, that means there was 54 people below me who had really shitty painted armies.
That is true.
Well, it depends too, because like,
oh man, you did great.
I didn't even put my army up for painting. Like a lot of people, I don't even think got their armies marked for painting.
Well, and that's the thing is, I only got mine marked because I was sitting next to Logan. Logan got his done. I'm like, the competitive in me comes out. I'm like, I gotta get a better score than Logan. So I called him over. He might as well just do mine. And holy shit, they called my name out for third Renaissance man, and I was flabbergasted. It was awesome.
That is awesome. Cool. Did you win Best Faction Nights? Yes, eh?
I came in 4th for
Oh,
the year.
But you got best nights
I
at LVO, right?
At LVO.
I got
Okay,
best
sorry.
nights at LVO, but overall for the year I came in 4th. I missed it by about 40 points, and that's only because Mr. Josh Death, who I was only a little bit behind, ended up doing and winning I think a GT the weekend before, and it put him way over everyone else. So.
Well, that sucks. And I played Chaos Space Marines. It was my first ever Chaos Space Marine results. Got 153 points. Put me in like top 20 Chaos Space Marines for nothing.
Nice.
But anyway, okay, so we're going to move on to Pimp My List. Thanks for bearing with us. So this is, Homer sent this list in. It is a Chaos Space Marine list. So we'll go over it really quickly, and then I'll let the guys do a quick roundtable on what they would maybe change, what they would add. Now, it is 1,500 points. So basically what it was... I'm just getting her up here. It's 1,500 point Chaos Space Marine list. He basically had a formation, which is a Gore Pack, Chaos Bikes, and then Flesh Hounds. It's only 5 Flesh Hounds though, so it's a small unit. And then his next detachment was a Combined Arms, and it had a Chaos Lord with the Mark of Khorne power armor. He had the Sigil for the 4+, and he had the Skull Helm of Khorne. Then for troops, he had Cultists. He sent it in, what is this? What format is this one? This is Battle Scribe?
Like the full
Battle
output of Battle Scribe. It's three units of 10 cultists.
3 into 10 Cultists, a Soul Grinder, a Chaos Knight Errant.
A Forge
And that's
Fiend,
it.
right?
That was
Yeah, you had a Forge Fiend, and didn't he also have
and a Soul Grinder.
a Soul Grinder? Yeah.
Or did I miss the Forge Fiend? So I must have missed the Forge Fiend. Okay, cool. So it's basically a rush at you corn list, a lot of combat, Knight in there to back them up. What do you guys think? Start with you, Jeff.
It's okay. I think the Lord's on a bike, where I think that's the first thing. I think he needs to be on a jugger. He just
hits
for
harder,
that. He hits a lot harder. I think the Forge Fiend, I don't like it. That's the shooty version of the Mauler Fiend.
Yep.
It's not as good as the Mauler Fiend, and Mauler Fiends are fine, but grab's still a thing, and that just kind of stops them in their tracks. And I'm just not a fan of Soul Grinders. I'd like to see the dogs be bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe run a 10-man unit and put the Lord on the Jugger and the dogs just as a delivery service for them, because he can scout with them.
Mm-hmm.
And change the Chaos Knight from an Errant, which is the Melt-A-Gun, to the Paladin, which is a battle gun. It's 5 points more, but the battle cannon, the rapid fire battle cannon, does so much more work than the 36-inch Melt-A-Gun. And then if you can, put some Meltas on the bikes, just because they're useful for getting into flanks and just annoying. But yeah, the Soul Grinder and the Forge Fiend I'm not a fan of, and the Lord should go on a Jugger, basically.
Logan, you have any comments that don't echo what Jeff
so
said?
a lot along the same lines. I would say if you want to stick with the Gore Pack, definitely flesh out the Flesh Hounds a bit more. Go up to at least 10 for that. Drop the Forge Fiend. Just completely take it out. It's not worth having there. Lord on the Juggernaut. I'd probably swap out one of the Cultist units for some Bloodletters. The Cultists are decent for holding objectives. The Bloodletters are the same amount of points and are more durable though, and they can deep strike. So I think it's worthwhile at least playing around with it for one unit of those. They're also fearless, so they're not going to run away as soon as they lose 3 guys, which is also pretty important.
So you get 10 Bloodletters for the same point as 10 Cultists?
It's 8 for the same points.
8 and 8, right? Okay, that's right.
It's 2 fewer guys, but it's considerably more durable because you've got the 5-up invul save. And swap out the Errant for the Paladin. But the biggest thing is really get more dogs, because that Chaos Lord is just going to fall over dead when that unit evaporates, whether he's in with that or the bikes. It looks like there are Melt-A-Guns on the bikes already, which is good. So.
Oh, are there? Okay.
Yeah. More Flesh Hounds, Juggernaut, and drop the Forge Fiend is really the biggest thing. Past that, it's a solid KDK list.
I would give the Lord a Power Fist, because he is what the Axe
got
one right now. Well, he does. Sorry, it's really hard to read this format. I went over it before, but sorry about that, Homer. But it's definitely solid. But you want to have something that shocks them, and so like the way I feel about your list is kind of split up a bit. Like I think you want to go everything in the grill or nothing, and kind of do more shooty. And I feel like you're kind of torn between 2 worlds right now. So maybe pick more of a focus and move towards it. And if you're going for combat, usually the more combat you have, the better. Because in this edition, less stuff makes it than in previous
The
editions.
3 units of cultists is too much. I mean, he actually has he could drop.
Do you even
some things
need?
and run-
Like,
No, you don't need the 3 units.
CAD.
I
Because-
don't think he needs the CAD. He could drop his list, the cultists, and he could run a very similar list to the guy I played round 4, which he was running the Decurion version of the KDK, which is where you get the free blood tithe every point, and then keeping the cult, you can hide the cultist, and then when you get enough, you can use that to summon a bloodthirster, and that cultist leader goes bye bye, but you get a dethirster out of it, which is really nice.
Yep.
So I think he took the CAD so that he could take the Lord of War, but you don't need the CAD. You just take the formation. I could be wrong, Omer, but if you're doing that, you don't need the CAD for the Lord of War.
No, you don't.
You could just take an allied detachment.
No, I don't know. Somehow even the ITC ruled it that you could have, because the guy I faced had that D-Knight, the Demon Knight, in his list somehow. I know that ITC's ruled it.
I thought the
that you
Demon
can
Knight
get
you
that
could
Lord of-
take it, but the Demon Knight is a Lord of War and a
It
Chaos
is a Lord
Space
of
Marine
War.
army.
Yes.
But
And you can get it in
these
the
Chaos
KDK.
Knights, I don't think you can put them in.
I
think they have to be their own
The
formation.
Renegade Knights have to be their own formation. The Chaos Knights, the Forge World ones, specifically on their data slate from Forge World, says they can be included in KDK or Chaos Space Marines or Demons.
And you
As
can
long as they
get
have
that.
a Demon of Corn for KDK.
Yeah, and you can get that in the Corn and then the KDK Decurion, which I think fits the list a lot better.
Yeah.
You basically you got 1,500 points. You're looking to get those blood ties a lot more because you can start pumping out units, and especially at 1,500 points, the more you free units you get, it actually has a higher multiplier on the game, rather than at 2,000 points or 1,850. Free units at 1,500 or lower points just adds so much more to your list.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dan?
Dan, sorry, we skipped you.
Yeah, no, I feel pretty much the same way you guys do. I mean, in a competitive sense, this is definitely very solid advice that they've given you already. Bigger flesh hounds, that kind of thing. You got a few, like a little bit what we call like fat to be trimmed. Just a few things that could be fixed up, that can make it better. Paladin switch, Force Fiend switch, that kind of thing, no problem. The only thing that I would say is you could switch to a more shooty style list. If you wanted to. If you wanted to go the other way, you could do that. If you're more interested in that, because like you said, there's not a lot of close combat in here. So if the idea here is to be more shooty, then you could easily switch to a more shooty variant of the list.
Double
that would be
Gatler
something
Knight,
like-
man.
Double Gatler Knight is absolutely
You
devastating. Double
you
Corn Knight
need to
is
run a
really-
Renegade formation. I mean, if you're going to
Yeah,
shoot it, they have
be
that.
fine.
They have that.
Yeah.
They got that formation in the KDK where you can get like 2 4-inch fiends and a Warpsmith, and he helps them or something like that.
That's a Chaos Space Marine formation.
A Chaos Space Marine? Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not very good because he can only give his ballistic skill and weapon skill to one of them, and you have to take
Right.
one of each.
And they have to
it
stand
has
next
a
to each other.
12-inch range, so it's
Yeah.
it was a poorly designed formation. But I love that formation. I have a lot of Mauler Fiends. They're like one of my favorite units in the game. So
Yeah, the new Mauler Fiend formation is actually pretty sweet. It's pretty cool. So yeah, I'd
They do
say
work.
yeah, it's if you're looking for more like a supporting firepower to complement a combat army, I think you need to trim back on the shooting, go more combat. But if you want to go more shooting, then go for it. You could definitely do some tweaks. I actually don't mind the Bike Lord. I'm a fan of the Bike Lord. The 25 points you're not spending on the Juggernaut, I'm totally fine with. I'm fine with that. I have a Chaos Lord on bike on my Cyclo Pickleball list, and I dig that.
I'm greedy. I like the extra attacks, man. I'm greedy. I'd give him a
Yeah.
Lightning Claw and a Power Fist, put him on a Jugger, and just watch him eat stuff.
Yeah.
He's
but
got
just-
2 specialist weapons, so really all you're getting is just.
Well, he already has it.
Yeah, you're just getting the extra attack from the Juggernaut, but it looks so much cooler.
Juggernaut's great.
My Bike Lord's pretty baller, I will say.
Yeah, he is
I
awesome.
just converted the hell out of him, so he's pretty cool. Anyway,
Nice.
so the only other thing I would say is like I don't really like the relic you have on the Lord. I don't think it's really worth the points. I think it's like 30 points or something. You get the extra tax on 6s. It's not bad, but again, a couple little things like that tweaked. You're looking at a slightly more effective list. Sorry, not even slightly more effective, like quite a bit more effective, because you're going to get an extra unit that way. You're going to get extra stuff. You're going to get more things that will more effectively help what you want to actually accomplish. So that's about it.
Yep.
Otherwise, solid. It's a good starting point for a KDK list. It just needs a few tweaks, just like a little like pokes and prods that will just
And
tighten it up a bit.
And if you want to go full crazy, just add a cabal, make your dogs bigger. But
Yep.
that's out of the spirit of your list, so we didn't suggest
Yeah,
it.
that was the only other thing I was going to say. If you really want to really tweak
But
it out.
we like to tweak lists within the spirit of which they're written, right? So
Yeah.
Very good, guys. So we're gonna go on. If you're following us in Twitch live right now, please spam the chat with questions for us. We'll get to you last. We're gonna start off with email questions. Ben emailed one in. What chapter should my librarian conclave be? It goes in a Ravenwing Star with Celestine.
So there are two answers to this that I'd give. So first off, remember chapter tactics will probably don't work now that you're mixing with something else. So you're limited
Dark
to
Angels
basically
have chapter tactics? I
What's
thought
that?
they didn't.
Dark
Dark
Angels
Angels
don't,
don't
but
have-
you specifically don't get them anymore with the FAQ. As soon as you join Dark Angels or Space Wolves, you lose your chapter tactics. So what you still get out of this, though, is you get access to relics or special characters, right? So if you're doing this, you want Tigurius is probably the main choice, so you go Ultramarines. If you don't like that, take a look at, I think it is Raven Guard. There is a chapter relic that gives you an extra power, and you get one extra free die or something like that. But Ultramarines... Imperial Fist,
Bones of
sorry,
Ossar?
Imperial Fist,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
the one. Yep. Ultramarines is I think the go-to for this, though. Tiggy is just too good to ignore.
Yeah, but if you're not going to take Tiggy, go
I
Imperial
say White
Fist.
Scars. Grab that Hunter's Eye for the Ravenwing Command Squad. Ignores
Yep.
cover on a
If
butt
you're
ton
running
of
a lot of
plasma.
bikes, yeah, it's
Yeah.
good. What I've done with my list for that is I take an Auspex on one of the librarians. It's not as good by any stretch,
Do
but
both.
yeah,
Aspects goes one way.
yeah, you
plasma
can do
goes the
that
other.
as well. Yeah.
I'm
I
a
ran
huge
this
fan.
list, so.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Ultramarines just for Tigurius because powers are what makes this Death Star go round.
Yep.
And you need the powers you need, and Tigurius helps you make sure you get them.
Yeah,
But
Problem is
other than that, I agree with
he
Dan. White
slows
Scars all
unit
the way.
down.
Yeah, it's not that bad though. But White Scars. Other than that, I would go White Scars for the Hunter's Eye and the extra hit and run in case she dies in combat and then gets knocked out of combat. But
Well, that one is a chapter tactic, sadly.
Yeah, you won't get the
would
hit
lose it. You
anymore.
would lose it. Yeah, frig.
They do have they have a second relic, which is another psychic one. So the White Scars, unfortunately, as common as the White Scars are, they are the most common ones for a reason.
Yep.
They get
They
the
got
coolest
love.
relics.
They got
Yeah,
love this edition.
for sure.
Okay, so that's it for email questions. I believe I maybe missed a few in the inbox. We'll get to them next show if they're Age of Sigmar related. Twitter questions. First one is from Leonix or Lennox. How will the new facts shake up the meta? Dan?
Quite a bit. We're expecting to see quite a few things. Now, personally, I'm kind of like holding off a little bit because I'm expecting a new edition fairly soon. I think there's some pretty indicative signs that it's coming up. But as far as the actual current meta goes, the facts change a lot of armies. They change the way a lot of things work, especially, sadly, for Genestealer Cult. While I feel like they are still competitive, they got a couple of things that kind of ruled against them, sadly. Otherwise, I think a lot of people were playing it the way that the fact went. There weren't that many things that changed. There's a lot of small tweaks, but nothing too crazy.
Yeah, the
Nice
fact
shooting
is
arc.
how I like things. Yeah.
What?
The
Nice
fact
shooting
generally
arcs.
followed what I wanted. But
I guess,
Oh,
I
you
guess
talk
if
about
you
that,
weren't...
Jeff. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Dan.
the night shooting arcs are big.
The
LVO,
shooting arc thing was weird.
the LVO at least they still ruled it where I thought it was too much, where they had an 180-degree shooting arc, but they didn't specify what. So one game I could have front 180, the other game I could have side 180. But have Knights having a 90-degree shooting arc now that starts directly in front of the weapon, pretty much makes the Crusader Knight, which is the one with the two weapons, not as good. I mean, rarely you're still firing at 2 units, but it's still you really have to play with your positioning of your lights. It's going to be a lot harder to position Knights now with only that 90-degree shooting arc.
Yeah, that's gonna
Yeah.
be a huge difference.
That was
Yeah.
one thing for sure, yeah. And
That was the only one that was like wonky, but it makes sense because the Knights broke so many line of sight rules that it was kind of abusive, right, Dan?
yeah, really abusive.
they
players
still
are just
do, though.
abusive.
It doesn't change anything with that, really.
I know, but at least you can put a Marine right in front of it and flip him off, and he can't shoot you. And
That's true. It's pretty
Oh,
entertaining.
you got a stubber.
Yes, stubber.
You got the stabs.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
no,
last,
too crazy.
last Twitter question from Captain Woodrow. I want to net list LVO, Barkstar, or wait for next edition. if you already own a Battle Company or a Lions Blade, and you can buy a few dogs to run a Barkstar Lions Blade, I say do it now. But otherwise, wait till next edition.
Yep.
Jeff, what's your take on that?
If I didn't have a whole war combo ready to go for this year, I'd so love to be doing a Lions Blade with Barkstar. I think that army looks so much fun.
Now, he didn't say Lions Blade. I added that in, but he just said Barkstar.
I think Barkstar to run with the Lions Blade is the way to go with Barkstar. Pure Barkstar, I think can get countered too easily. It can get move blocked, and as Yoshi showed us, you can actually stop it from hitting and running. I think with the Lions Blade, it's a lot better, and the list looks like fun, and it's a far cry from 5 Knights. So,
It is true.
But should he buy it or wait, Jeff?
I just spend the money.
Spend the money, Dan. Buy it or wait.
I mean, it's a great list, but in the end, I would definitely say wait. Mainly because you don't know what next edition is going to be. I think it's going to change a lot. Barkstar is also on paper cool. You're not going to have fun games with it. You're not going to enjoy it. Sadly, as cool as it's going to be, even in a competitive meta, you're not going to have fun. So
It's strictly like toolbox, right? It's just like I have the tools to win the mission. I don't really.
It's like you can't hurt me, I can't hurt you. We're just going to stand here and I'm going to control the middle of the board and I win.
Yeah,
or they have enough to deal with you. Yeah, it's a cool enough list on paper, but it's not that much fun to play. It's definitely not that much fun to play against. Like I've seen people tap against it just by looking at it, which is just that doesn't appeal to me at all. If it appeals to you, you just want to hurt people's feelings. I can appreciate that. Go for it. But honestly, 8th edition to me sounds like it's right around the corner. We'll see where it goes, I guess. But right now, I'd say wait.
Awesome. Logan?
Yeah,
same thing? Or?
Same thing. I think 8th is probably going to come around in the next couple months. I don't think it's going to be a drastic change, but even just small tweaks to the rules are enough to totally invalidate lists like that are based around one specific mechanic. So I'd definitely say wait.
All right, so I'll hand it to Logan for the Facebook questions. Now we got this out really late, so we don't have many.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. We try to be better. It's just we've had 3 weeks off and we're all screwed up and retarded right now. So
that is true. So first question we've got here, I think actually the only question we've got here that's worth answering is from Innes. It says, what army surprised you the most at LVO?
Logan, you want to go first?
Yeah, so as strange as it sounds, the thing that surprised me the most was the army that actually beat you, Chris, on round 6, that Tau list. Because it is like classic Tau with a Storm Surge. I'm amazed that it got top 8. I'm really impressed.
He dodged demons. He told me he never played it. I was the first demon army. I said, "Well, I'm cast Space Marines."
Well, there's a couple armies that are tough matchups for that though. So I don't know what he played necessarily. But that I'd say it's between that and Lawrence Baker getting 9th place with not pure Dark Eldar, like half Dark Eldar, half Eldar. But doing that well with such a large chunk of points in Dark Eldar was really impressive.
What surprised you, Dan?
Definitely the Dark Eldar was awesome. Seeing him in 9th place was really cool. The Gene Stealer Cult army was pretty cool. I can't remember the guys. John Camacho, I guess he's one of the East Coast guy or West Coast guys. Really different kind of list. I appreciate the Gene Stealer variants. He was playing some kind of fancy tricks with some old Imperial Guard, Forge Roll, double shooting Vanquisher, instant death, Monster Hunter stuff. But other than that, it was kind of interesting. It was kind of cool. Otherwise, I mean, I've been kind of studying the meta a lot, so I wasn't completely blown away by anything in particular. Knights in the top 50 was pretty cool.
Jeff?
I wasn't top 50.
I know.
Oh, yeah, you weren't. Oh, right.
Top 60.
Top 60.
So, Jeff, did any list surprise you?
Surprised I didn't see more Gene Stealer Cult. I thought this would be a good last hurrah for people who collected them, and I'm surprised I didn't do better. But yeah, like what Dan and Logan said, the Dark Eldar hitting 9th, it's pretty awesome. Even the Dark Eldar Harlequin list I played, like it wasn't an easy match. I just got lucky, and he got some bad dice rolls. So they apparently, and now even with their new thing, you might see more Dark Eldar coming in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nothing really surprised me. I always had a healthy respect for Dark Eldar, though. But the one thing is that this cemented that I think the Lions Blade Barkstar is the best list in the game right now. people might disagree with that. I look at that list and I go, in ITC, that's the best list.
Renegades, bruh.
If I was to start from scratch, there's some questionable stuff with Renegades. I don't want to talk about it, but that list definitely to me looks solid. So Twitch questions.
Twitch questions. All right, we got a bunch from Wii here.
I almost
What?
opened a can of like Renegade hate for a minute, but I didn't.
That'll be
almost boil over.
the
It's
after
pretty
hours
funny.
show. So we got a lot of questions from Wii, and they're actually legitimate questions for once, which is amazing. So first question: what LVO only ruling should carry over to the real FAQ? So, for example, they're ruling on how Pink Horror split happens.
That was stupid ruling. I hated it.
That ruling is exactly how I
Fire
read it. I was a big fan of all of their rulings except for the Psychic Shriek one, which made no sense to me. So I'd be happy with any of the changes they made going into the season.
Even the Scat Hatch Raid Night.
Scat Hatch Wraith Knight, actually, that one pissed me off a lot too. But
that it shouldn't be able to teleport like
no,
that.
there is absolutely no official documentation supporting that from anyone. So those two need to go away. The rest was good. Dan, what were you saying there?
Oh, the Gene Stealer cult ones, I'd be down for keeping in.
Oh, absolutely. The way
It's
they
not
rule Gene Stealer cult
actually
makes
being
them
affected
very
by Silver
viable.
Cult. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty cool. All that stuff seems smart to me. Otherwise, yeah, nothing too crazy.
The next question's hilarious.
So this is
What's
also
the next
from Wheat. How long did
Oh.
it take for Jeff to realize that his trophy was stolen from directly under his nose?
That was an
Like
amazing
he shook your
time.
hand with the
Yeah.
trophy in his
Oh,
hand and walked out.
I was like 15 beers in at that point. That was pretty good. I realized the next morning when I went to pack it up, and I'm like, it's gone. Well, I either left it in the room. In that case, Yoshi or Logan will grab it for me, or someone stole it, and it's someone I know. And then I was catching a plane back with Conrad, and he had it. So
He told us that he was putting it, like you asked him to put it in his carry-on or something
Yeah,
like that.
you did. You just totally forgot.
I must have.
Oh man,
So he's-
it was
yeah.
hilarious.
All
So
right.
Dan, oh sorry, go ahead, Logan.
Go for it. Go for it.
When will Dan paint Alariel?
When will I paint Alariel? She's being built. That's pretty cool. When it'll be painted? It's a good question.
Are you going to use her as a warp hunter?
No, it's yeah, that's the plan. Yeah, that was actually
you might-
that was a little rough.
Yeah, that was very
Yeah.
rough. Some of this counts as stuff needs to be.
There was a lot of table
resolved.
vomit at
It's reined in
LVO.
a little bit, you know.
Yeah, we have this new
Not
word.
to slight
We
anybody,
invented a
but-
word for LVO called table vomit, so we could be like, you're playing some table vomit because there's some pretty rough, like there's some really rough armies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when
It
people are
really-
going up to me and being like, your one night dipped Magnus is like the nicest Magnus I've seen here. I'm like, well, you haven't seen them all because there's definitely two nicer ones. But yeah, it's the third nicest Magnus and it's garbage. Like,
It kind of highlighted the Canadian versus U.S. scene for me. Like, if you look at all the guys who do well in Canada, I mean, I'll raise my hand in that one, and Dan and you, Chris, and Yoshi, and a lot of other guys. All our armies look good. Like, they're all at least tabletop plus whatever that would be.
not my
standard.
LVO army. That does a new low for me.
But okay, your other armies, like your Eldar, looks great. And you go down to some of the top guys. Like my first match when I played the Riptide and Scathatch, his whole army was barely 3 colors, and he had a Pokemon base, and I was like just a Pokeball, and that was it. And I was lucky. Half my games were against armies that looked nice. The other half were against armies that were table vomit.
Yeah, the painting is not
Definitely
so
different.
much of a thing in the U.S.
Yeah, different
No.
priorities, right? Like you said, we kind of all take it seriously up here. We take it as part of our tournament prep. We paint stuff. We want our armies to look good. It's just
Yeah, we stay up late. We
different
pump them
priority.
out. Like
Yeah.
we would never get away here, just like taking a bit and like gluing it to a treatment and being like, "That's a Riptide." That would never fly here,
yeah, I don't think so.
ever. Like people would be rage quitting. Like they'd be like it'd be done. Like it would never even get past the TO. I don't think.
No.
Okay, next question.
All right. This is a good question for anyone who runs events. How far in advance would 8th need to hit for you to change Power Fists and Psychers, Bloodbath, blah, blah, blah? I'd say a month.
Yeah, I would love Bloodbath to be 8th, man. I would do everything in my power to make sure it's 8th. Like if he says a month and it's a day past a month, I'm not even gonna let Logan hold his ground. I'll hurt him.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't want.
I want 8th to come.
yet, but I wouldn't be interested in. Like I'm worried about the ETC for that. I don't want to play 7th edition when the 8th has been out. Like that doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't like that idea at all. So I hope that any tournament I would go to would just switch almost immediately. Sure, it's going to be a shit show. We're not going to know what's going to happen, but
It's part of the fun,
I'm
man.
down.
Just take
I'm
your
down.
arm
2
and
weeks.
play.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
For,
Have to read the rule book
for a
once.
smaller event, I do it with even a
Yeah.
week notice. My only concern with Bloodbath would just be making sure everyone knows what the hell's going on.
It would have to be a month because you get those guys that just rage.
Yeah.
Oh, my list is not 100% optimal anymore. I have to paint these new units. Well, dude, just take it. Like everybody's in the same boat as you. It's okay.
Yes,
But-
you
We
could
had
do
the
that. You
same.
could
We
just
had the
take
same
away-
thing when you went from 5th to 6th and 6th to 7th, right? I mean, it was about a month in between tournaments taking over, and anything that kind of went longer than a month, you actually had people, complaining that it wasn't the newest
Yeah.
edition.
I agree.
Yeah, a month seems to be safest.
Mhm.
All right, next question. This is a troll question, but it's also a real question. If a unit
We can save
mishaps within 7 inches of a Inari unit, does it activate Soul Burst?
Yeah.
Seems legit.
Mishaps on a 1, sorry. Seems legit.
I
I
would
don't
think
think so. I don't think so.
Yeah,
Explain.
I think so.
my definitive answer was possibly.
so
So this is
So-
actually a real question. So
I understand. There's
I
no
don't
real
think we can
answer
answer
for
it
it,
now,
though.
though.
And we're going to be covering those books in the next couple weeks, so I think we should just hang off speculation at this point.
Yeah.
That's cool with you.
Yeah. definitely.
Next question from Jason. Is that Hutchinson?
Yes, it is.
Hutchison? Jason, will General's Handbook 2.0 used for CCBB? So, with the love they gave my Fire Slayers, I hope it's out in time. I would love to use 2.0. I think we need it. There's a lot of stuff that's unplayable right now. So, most likely.
Yeah, as long
if it
as long
comes
as
out.
in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah, a reasonable amount of time. 2 weeks is pushing it. A month, for sure.
All right, Waylander TV. I am building an 1850 point pure Harlequin army together at the moment. When it comes to troops, how would you equip them? I know nothing about Harlequin, so I'm going to turn this over to the rest of you.
I don't know.
I guess I know.
Haywire and the Caresses, which do funky stuff on the 6s.
Yeah, the
six-
press is
six
easily the
hit.
best weapon.
Other than that, you also
How
need
much
the
of each? What kind of percentage? Like, how
unit
many?
size. I like 2 and 2. I like because you can still run some meat shields in front of them. And then you also need the characters and the spells that kind of debuff your opponent with the shooting, like rolling 2d6 to even see the unit and minuses the hit. Like that I think is key for Harlequins. And I think you can run MSU or you can run a star. I think Harlequins are still better as a star rather than MSU. I think MSU they just get focused down too much.
Yeah, that leadership bomb star is pretty nasty too.
Yeah, check out the new Nari stuff for sure.
Yeah.
Check out the new Fracture of Biel-Tan.
Yeah,
a lot of people saying that because they still maintain their original faction. They're still Harleys. They just gain an additional faction. So you can still do a full Harley list.
Unlike
just
Crocodile,
check that out
they
for
don't
sure.
lose anything.
Yeah, that's the thing. They lose. The one thing they lose that's kind of sad is the mass attachment lets you run in charge. And with Fleet, that's pretty great.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
It's
It's
a pretty
fast.
great ability for Harleys. But being able to
That's why I lost
charge
someone.
extra, or being able to shoot twice, or being able to move twice is a pretty big deal. Not to mention, Harleys are traditionally a little bit squishy. Yeah, that's about it.
Can
Shadow
be.
Seers are fantastic. Shadow Seers are one of the coolest kits in there.
I like the solitaire, but that's me.
Solitaire is awesome.
Next one.
Our last question here from Winter Mitts. Do you think Kodiaz's rule that makes units OBSEC carries to... Hold on. Okay. Do you think Kodiaz's rule that makes units OBSEC I guess it's supposed to say carries over when the unit is embarked in a transport or dedicated transport? Dedicated transport, yes, because it's the same slot. So I guess it depends on Kodiaz's ruling specifically. I think it basically just says he makes henchmen troops, right?
Cody
we got a
says
new
he
one.
makes troops in his detachment objective
Okay,
secured.
so
So
dedicated
that would apply to
transport.
just transports.
Yeah, dedicated transports. would get it.
Previously to the Castellan's deployment, the formation, you can only ever take henchmen and transfer, so it didn't make a difference.
Right.
Now you can
Elites.
take him in that new Castellan's formation, where he becomes your HQ, and he gives your troops that now respawn objective
Gives them
secured,
OBSEC,
which
yeah.
is big.
That's huge, actually. Yeah. So yes, it would definitely carry over to dedicated transports because they'd be troops' choices in that same detachment.
But if he embarks in a transport, I would say no, it does not get OBSEC. The actual transport wouldn't get it. But he still counts as OBSEC in the transport because he can still score from inside a transport, right?
No, not anymore. Because the new
Oh, because he's removed
would-
from the table.
Yeah,
that's right.
exactly.
You're removed from the. So he
Exactly.
counts as. So no,
So if
when
you-
he's in a
if you-
transport that's not a troop, it doesn't count.
Exactly. So if the transport's not, yeah, as you said, if the transport's not a troop and an OBSEC unit gets in it, that OBSEC unit is no longer in the game for game purposes, right? So you just have a non-OBSEC transport, which is a huge change, actually.
Yeah, I forgot that. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, big change. Cool. So that's it for questions. We're gonna wrap it up. Thanks for joining us, Dan and Jeff. It was awesome having you guys on. We'll have to get you on again. I know Jeff plays a lot of Age of Sigmar. Well, Dan does too, but we play the same army. But we'll have to get you on for some Sigmar-related content in the future. Thanks for listening, guys. For feedback, you can email us, canhammer.podcast@gmail.com. You can visit canhammer.ca for more information, where you'll find our YouTube channel and all our other cool stuff. And Logan, you can go to our...
Patreon.com/CanHammer. It helps us out with stuff like our hosting costs, some of our events running. Also gives you guys a bunch of cool stuff, t-shirts, dice, free entry to events. Be sure to check that out. Patreon.com/OnePlusArmor. And also check us out on our YouTube.
/CanHammer, you
Slash
jerk.
CanHammer.
You said One Plus
Not
Armor.
One Plus Armor. Patreon.com/CanHammer. Old habits die hard. And check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/CanHammer. We have a bunch of new Age of Sigmar battle reports coming out. Just got another one filmed today, actually.
I'm filming 3 on Friday.
Nice. We got a bunch more 40K coming up. Tons more Batman that Andrew's worked on. And a read-along for the new Beal Tan book.
Yeah, so have a good one.